Chapter 693. After Muyu entered the 46th floor, he arrived at a hill. Behind him was a cave that was surrounded by weeds and broken rocks. Below him was a mountain path that led to a village. This place was like a paradise. The fields crisscrossed, and there were a few villagers farming in the fields. There were also a few children playing under the trees beside the fields. A burst of laughter could be faintly heard. When Muyu first arrived at this floor, he did not feel any abnormalities. His body also did not feel any discomfort. He did not feel the suppression of his spiritual energy. The black and white spiritual energy was still circulating in his body as if everything was normal. I have to find a suitable weapon. You can't use Yu Meng's ability here, Xiao Shui said as she picked up a stone from the grass. Are we going to throw stones and fight? Muyu felt that it was a bit funny. This scene was too strange. Throwing stones and fighting was something that children liked to do the most. In any case, they were cultivators who could fly and break cliffs. Throwing stones around was too degrading. What else? Playing rock, paper, scissors to win? Xiao Shui picked up a few more stones. She usually liked to control water. Sometimes, she would use water to condense ice to deal with her enemies. Therefore, stones were the most suitable weapon for her. Then Xiao Shui said, "Those villagers are very strange. However, they should be illusions. Let's try not to provoke them." "Why?" Little Shui asked curiously. "Because they have hoes and hatchets," Xiao Shui said simply. Muyu could not help but laugh. Mortals and cultivators stood on the same starting line. Needless to say, they knew the dangers of weapons. Fortunately, Muyu took out the Shadow Clone Sword in advance. Although he could not use his spiritual energy on the Shadow Clone Sword and could not release a tyrannical sword aura, he could at least use it as a weapon. After Taoist Master Xian Jizi set up the Spirit Extinction No Immortal domain on this floor, he also created a group of people in an illusion array. Qinxiang really did not know what his intentions were. Just as Muyu was thinking about how to kill Gue Shiming, Gue Shiming had already stepped out of the cave. "You're not running anymore." Gue Pai Ming's anger soared to the sky. Originally, he only needed to wait for a while to reach the 99th floor. Then, he would have captured the Sea Demon King on the 99th floor. Then, his mission would have been completed. However, Muyu had destroyed the exit. He stood outside the cave and coldly stared at Muyu and Xiao Shui. He had never been to the 46th floor before, so he didn't know what was so strange about this floor. But now that he was using the Blood Realm Devil Puppet, he believed that no matter what tricks Muyu played, he would still be far from being his match. "Escape? Come at me if you have the ability." Muyu waved the Shadow Clone Sword in his hand, thinking that the powerful human who had comprehended the Spirit Extinction No Immortal realm had really helped him a lot. In the Spirit Extinction No Immortal realm, whoever was more agile would be able to dominate. Just like Gui Tian from the Qintian school in the Mayan mountain range, he didn't have much spiritual power in his body and relied entirely on the strength of his body. If a body cultivator relied on his body to reach the Grand Ascension stage and comprehended the domain of Spirit Extinction, then he would be invincible in his domain. "Go to hell!" Gue Shiming fiercely shouted, his hand suddenly grabbed, and his body jumped high. At the very least, he thought that he would jump 10 feet high. But in reality, he only jumped on the spot and landed back on the ground. Nothing happened. He even staggered a little. "Die your sister." Muyu ran over, raised his Shadow Clone Sword, and slashed at Gue Shiming. Gue Shiming frowned slightly and coldly snorted. He thought that the ghost chi in his body would surge out and send Muyu flying. But no ghost chi appeared. Muyu's Shadow Clone Sword slashed at Gue Shiming's face. Gue Shiming reacted at the last moment. His body slanted and dodged the sword. However, the Shadow Clone Sword also left a bloody wound on his body. Gue Shiming had already sensed that something was wrong. He found that he could not summon his blood-red long axe. His blood soul also did not move. There was obviously no abnormality in the surroundings. The spiritual power in his body was also flowing normally. But why did his technique lose its effectiveness? Xiao Shui's stone was already smashing towards Gue Shiming. This time, Gue Shiming did not block it and dodged. They were cultivators. Their body was usually nourished by spiritual power, so in fact their degree of flexibility was still there, even their strength was still there. Strictly speaking, they were still much more powerful than ordinary mortals. Xiao Shui's stone smashed Gue Shiming away, and Muyu was already standing at the entrance of the cave, preventing Gue Shiming from escaping. Is it another array technique? Gue Shiming was very annoyed. He quickly understood that in this place, his cultivation was equivalent to being crippled, and he could not summon his blood realm devil puppet. But he did not associate it with domain. He thought that it was just like this so close yet worlds apart that he encountered on the 81st floor, which restricted people's cultivation. He must leave this floor, otherwise it would be very disadvantageous for him. Everyone has lost their cultivation. What makes you think that the two of you can beat me? Gue Shiming grabbed the stone thrown by Xiao Shui. Just now, Muyu and Xiao Shui's actions showed that the other party did not have any advantage here. This was much better than the so close yet worlds apart array technique. Gue Shiming did not need to escape. Based on my shadow clone, Muyu rushed towards Gue Shiming with the shadow clone sword in his hand. The shadow clone sword had 9 sword moves. These 9 sword moves were not a joke. Even without spiritual power, Muyu could still fight in close combat, directly using the sword move to kill. The nimble shadow clone sword reflected the sunlight. The sword light streaked across and stabbed towards Gue Shiming's shoulder. Gue Shiming continuously retreated to dodge, but Muyu's speed was not slow at all. The falling dust steps under his feet made Muyu like a swimming fish. The tip of his foot touched the stone. His body twisted in the air, and the sword edge once again left a deep sword mark on Gue Shiming's shoulder. The falling dust steps was not an ordinary movement technique. Back at the falling dust mountain, Kong Kong and Meow Meow could rely on the falling dust steps to leap over the cliff. Naturally, Mu, you could also do it, relying on my unparalleled handsomeness. Xiao Shui shouted loudly. His body had already nimbly pounced towards Gue Shiming. His small claws were as thin as cicadas' wings. These claws could be said to be indestructible. Even demon beasts with thick skin would not be able to block, let alone Gue Shiming. Xiao Shui's figure was very fast. With a wave of his claws, the stone that Gue Shiming threw out had already been split into 2, and then on Gue Shiming's chest, another deep wound could be seen. But Gue Shiming seemed to have lost his sense of pain, because his whole body was corroded by the blood realm devil puppet. His flesh was already badly mutilated, looking extremely ferocious. There was no difference at all. Muyu and Xiao Shui's wounds on his body. He did not even frown. What do you think the blood realm devil puppet's function is? I am now a skeleton body. You can't hurt me, much less kill me. Gue Shiming laughed sinisterly. Gue Shiming's body had already been slashed by Muyu's sword. In the end, Muyu had even stabbed a sword in his heart, but he still revealed a strange smile, not feeling any panic. Have you fought enough? Gue Shiming threw a punch at Muyu. Muyu's fist met his. The powerful force made both of them retreat a few steps. The stones in Xiao Shui's hand were like hidden weapons, flying from all kinds of tricky angles. The wounds on Gue Shiming's body increased, but he still did not care. Can't kill you. Muyu held the shadow clone sword tightly. His sword was quite sharp, but it was still unable to kill Gue Shiming. The blood realm devil puppet was such an evil thing. It made Gue Shiming unrecognizable, but it also made him seem like an unkillable monster. The people of the Gate of Hell were really capable of doing anything to achieve their goals, turning themselves into puppets that did not feel pain. That's right, I can't kill you. Gue Shiming was riddled with wounds by Muyu, Xiao Shui, and Xiao Shui, but he still stood tall. Dragon Vine roared. Its sharp claws tore off a piece of flesh from Gue Shiming's back, but it was still useless. Xiao Shui grabbed an opportunity. His sharp claws ruthlessly cut Gue Shiming's wrist. Like cutting tofu, he actually cut off Gue Shiming's hand. It's useless. Gue Shiming bent down to pick up his hand and pressed it again. The hand that was cut off actually reattached itself back in perfect condition. I know how to deal with him now. Let's attack together. Xiao Shui, cut off his 4 limbs. Muyu lightly shouted and once again rushed forward. The shadow clone sword was a divine weapon, incomparably sharp, flickering with a cold light as it slashed across Gue Shiming's neck. Although Gue Shiming had fused with the Blood Realm Devil Puppet, it did not increase his speed. Under the joint attack of Muyu and others, Gue Shiming could only passively take a beating. Dong dong dong. Gue Shiming's head fell to the ground and rolled far away. Gue Shiming's body quickly rushed towards his head, wanting to pick up his head and reattach it. But Xiao Shuai's sharp claws slashed across and cut off his 4 limbs. Xiao Shui turned her face away. This kind of dismemberment situation looked very bloody. But even though Gue Shiming was dismembered, every part of his body still slowly rolled and crawled back. I said before, you can't kill me, Gue Shiming shouted. Even though his 4 limbs were cut off by Muyu, he was not worried at all. I don't need to kill you. Muyu stepped on Gue Shiming's head and kicked his head away. Just separate your body. Muyu coldly snorted. Xiao Shui shouted, let me lift up your skull. Its sharp claws slashed across Gue Shiming's skull, but it clearly cut the skull into 2 halves, and in a blink of an eye, the 2 halves were reattached by strange power. My skull is fused with the Blood Realm Devil Puppet. It is impossible for you to break my skull, Gue Shiming said in resentment. He finally realized that something is wrong. Although he will not die, being dismembered will still cause him a lot of trouble. Muyu and others came prepared. He has been set up. Both sides have lost their cultivation. He is not a body cultivator. It is impossible for him to win against Muyu and others. So it's like that. Then I will dig a living dead tomb for you. Muyu walked to the side and spent a long time digging a 5-meter deep hole with Xiao Shui. They kicked Gue Shiming's head into it, and then moved a large stone to press it down and bury him. Chapter 694. Let's talk about it when you have the chance to come out. Muyu set up a soundproof array outside, making Gue Zhanming completely shut up. Fortunately, there is the spirit extinction, no immortal domain. If there was no spirit extinction, no immortal, they probably wouldn't know how to deal with Gue Zhanming. Muyu kicked the hand of Gue Zhanming, who was about to dig the ground to save his head. Even though Gue Zhanming's 4 limbs had been cut off, his hands and feet were still restless and wriggling on the ground unwillingly. This scene was too strange. The Japanese we met before didn't have this kind of undying ghost technique. They have been looking for the Demon King. Isn't it for the Demon King's body? Why do I feel that Gue Zhanming's body is already considered an undying body? What else are they looking for? Long Tongue asked curiously. Muyu shook his head and said, there must be a flaw in this technique. Otherwise, each of them would have been wandering around with a blood-colored skull. The blood-colored skull has corroded their bodies, making them ugly and ferocious. Maybe the Japanese don't want to use this ghost technique and become ugly? Xiao Shui guessed. Muyu laughed. He did not rule out this possibility. Why do I feel that this is a bit cruel? Xiao Shui said softly. Gue Zhanming's hand scratched randomly and touched her shoes. She stepped on that hand in disgust. Muyu shook his head. They have sacrificed so many blood souls in the gate of hell, which means that they have killed so many people. Compared to those vengeful spirits, it is not cruel. This is the best way to prevent him from doing evil forever. Muyu also did not like to do this kind of thing, but Gue Zhanming had become very strange after fusing with a Blood Realm Devil Puppet. He cannot be killed, so this was undoubtedly the best way to deal with him. The next exits would soon lead to different levels. Muyu only needed to seal those moving hands and feet in different places. It would be impossible for Gue Zhanming to reform his body. Muyu returned to the 89th floor and set up an array on this floor to seal Gue Zhanming's left hand. At this moment, the other exit on the 89th floor had already been restored and led to the 25th floor. He once again sealed Gue Zhanming's right hand. There was no need to show mercy to people like Gue Zhanming. Let's go. We need to change our path to the 99th floor. Step by step, seal by seal. Muyu dragged Gue Zhanming's legs, who was still moving, and entered the next level. Because he had missed the path to the 99th floor, This meant that Muyu needed to deduce another path to the 99th floor. After some calculations, Muyu estimated that it would take about 3 days. At this moment, Muyu was on the 21st floor. He would stay on this floor for 2 days. After 2 days, he would directly go to the 99th floor. The 21st floor was just an ordinary tower without any strange decorations. Not every floor of a Yao-ceiling pagoda was full of secrets. Aside from a few special formations, the rest were nothing more than illusions. Xiao Shui sat by the side and cultivated. Muyu looked at Xiao Shui in boredom and yawned. Xiao Shui did not allow Muyu to cultivate with her at the same time to avoid some uncontrollable situation, so Muyu could only look at her for now. His feelings for Xiao Shui had always been unclear. Because of the relationship between Shui Ling and Mu Ling, when he fought with Xiao Shui, he was always able to produce unexpected results. This feeling made Muyu very happy, but Muyu was not sure whether it was him who fell in love with Xiao Shui, or Gomong in his body who fell in love with Xianming in Xiao Shui's body. From the beginning to the end, it was the water spirit and the wood spirit that had merged together. What had happened to them was due to the natural resonance between Mu Yumeng and Shui Yumeng. At that time, neither of them were able to control themselves. If it was because of Spirit Lord Yu Meng's influence that caused Mu Yu's feelings for Xiao Shui to change, he would feel very uncomfortable in his heart, because it felt like Mu Yu was being forced to fall in love with Xiao Shui. He couldn't be sure of this, so sometimes he felt that he had let down Xiao Shui and Tian Ran. "What are you thinking about?" Xiao Shui suddenly opened her eyes and saw Mu Yu staring at her in a daze, so she asked aloud. "No, nothing. I was just thinking about how beautiful you are." Mu Yu grinned, covering up the worries in his heart. "Yes, elder sister Xiao Shui is very beautiful." Little Shui climbed onto Xiao Shui's legs and was about to continue climbing. Mu Yu grabbed little Shui's tail and pulled him back. "Are you thinking about Tian Ran?" Xiao Shui asked softly. Girls always seemed to be sensitive to certain things and could guess Mu Yu's thoughts at a glance. Mu Yu froze for a moment and pursed his lips. He didn't know how to answer this question, as he was really thinking about how to explain it to Tian Ran. He didn't know if Tian Ran would forgive him. He hadn't seen Tian Ran for a long time and didn't know how Tian Ran was doing. Tian Ran is a very good girl. Xiao Shui was silent for a moment before saying. Mu Yu felt like he was sitting on pins and needles. This was a very strange feeling. A girl with whom he had a relationship was praising another girl, and both of these girls had an unclear relationship with him. He was caught in the middle, but he didn't want to let either of them down. "You're also a very good girl," Mu Yu smiled. These were his heartfelt words. Xiao Shui smiled faintly. Her smile was like a lotus blooming in the water, elegant and leisurely, causing Mu Yu to fall into a daze for a moment. "I'm thinking about that matter. Perhaps I fell in love with you because of Shui Ling's influence. We both need to calm down and think about our true feelings," Xiao Shui said calmly. "And that's what I was thinking, but no matter what, I will protect you." Mu Yu felt relieved, Xiao Shui's words making him feel a lot more relaxed. "Go ahead and cultivate. I'll stay here and watch over you," Xiao Shui said as she sat in the clear spring with the winning fish swimming around her. Mu Yu nodded. He really needed to think about his own feelings. Xiao Shui watched as Mu Yu entered a calm state and sighed in her heart. She had already thought about this matter clearly. She didn't like Mu Yu because of Shui Ling, but because Mu Yu had sacrificed himself to save her in the second heavenly layer. At that time, Mu Yu's figure had already been engraved in her heart. At that time, Shui Ling didn't affect her at all. If it was because of Yu Meng's ability, then Mu Yu should have fallen in love with her at first sight. But Mu Yu didn't. Mu Yu really began to have a good impression of her when Shui Ling and Mu Ling fused with each other. Xiao Shui's eyes were extremely clear, just like her heart, without any impurities. Soon, 30 hours had passed. At this time, the entrance to the 21st floor suddenly swayed, and then 2 figures hurriedly flashed in. "Who?" Xiao Shui's water spirit blocked in front of her. "Xiao Shui? Great, it's you." A familiar voice sounded. "Xingyun." Xiao Shui frowned and put away her water spirit. Xiao Shui hadn't seen Long Xingyun since the incident on Volcano Island. At that time, when Xiao Shui and Mu Yu were separated by the mermaid monster, Long Xingyun didn't even appear in front of Xiao Shui. Instead, he had the mermaid monster trap Xiao Shui somewhere else. Xiao Shui came to Demon Island on her own and came ashore on the human side. You still dare to come here? Mu Yu lazily opened his eyes and stared at Long Xingyun. On the 18th layer, they met Long Xingyun. This guy's been eyeing Long Tongue. Originally, the arrogant Long Tongue wanted to kill Long Xingyun, but was rescued by Long Yeli. Long Xingyun saw Mu Yu sitting cross-legged on the ground, and his face suddenly changed. His eyes fell on Long Tongue on Mu Yu's shoulder and were full of resentment. Bastard, Long Tongue said contemptuously. Long Xingyun and Long Yeli's expression was very ugly. Because Xiao Shui was present, they didn't say anything. Long Xingyun squeezed out a smile and walked to Xiao Shui's side and said, Xiao Shui, are you okay these days? When we were separated by the sea flame beast, I was worried about you. Xiao Shui frowned. Worried about me? But Mu Yu said that you were the one who told the mermaid demon to separate me from Mu Yu and even trapped me. Long Xingyun pretended to be surprised and said, Mermaid monster? What mermaid monster? Why would I do something like that to you? Don't be fooled by that kid. We are all monsters, and he is a human. He is trying to drive a wedge between us. Don't believe his nonsense. Drive a wedge between us. You're really thick-skinned. You dare to do it, but don't dare to admit it? Are all bastards like you? Long Tongue roared angrily. Long Xingyun said, without changing his expression, I would never frame Xiao Shui. Don't accuse me if you don't have evidence. I should have killed you on the 18th layer, Mu Yu said in disgust. Although Xiao Shui didn't know who instigated the Mermaid King. At that time, the Mermaid King had just gained sentience with the help of others. Therefore, she could guess the ins and outs of this matter. Moreover, she believed that Mu Yu wouldn't speak carelessly. Xingyun, let's not talk about the past. You better be careful. Mu Yu's Long Tongue is the successor that Grandpa Green Dragon has been looking for. You better watch yourself. Otherwise, even I can't help you. Xiao Shui warned. Xiao Shui grew up with Long Xingyun and knew what kind of person Long Xingyun was. However, Long Xingyun's position in the Green Dragon dynasty was very high. She didn't want to fall out with Long Xingyun, nor did she want to see Long Xingyun killed by Mu Yu. Long Xingyun was a little angry, but he still forced a smile and said, Xiao Shui, don't worry. I will respect Grandpa Green Dragon's wishes regarding the true dragon. I won't do anything wrong. I will let you go because of Xiao Shui. Next time you will die, Mu Yu said calmly, but his eyes flashed with cold, murderous intent. With Xiao Shui here, Mu Yu didn't want to make things difficult for Xiao Shui. However, if Long Xingyun still wanted to die, he would not hesitate to kill Long Xingyun. How arrogant of you. I only lost you last time because I was careless. Do you really think there's no one else in the Green Dragon dynasty? Long Xingyun said angrily. He had never been threatened before, but Long Yeli pulled Long Xingyun back and shook his head. Long Yeli had lost to Mu Yu before, so he was still afraid of Mu Yu's strength. What Long Yeli didn't know was that Mu Yu's Hellion Kong soul armament had lost its effect. Without it, Mu Yu would have a hard time defeating Long Yeli. Mu Yu didn't want to waste any more words with Long Xingyun. He continued to meditate while Long Tongue watched Long Xingyun's every move. Xiao Shui, do you know how to get to the 99th floor? Long Xingyun asked. Xiao Shui looked hesitantly at Mu Yu. There is a pattern to the passageways in the spirit ceiling tower. If we wait here for a while, the passageway on this floor will lead to the 99th floor. Really? You've discovered the pattern in the spirit ceiling tower? Xiao Shui, you really are smart. No wonder Grandpa Azure Dragon thinks so highly of you. Xiao Shui, you must have brought that guy here, right? He's really lucky to have met you. Xiao Shui. Long Xingyun didn't hide his praise for Xiao Shui. No, we're just lucky. Mu Yu is the one who discovered the pattern. You should be thanking him. Xiao Shui walked to the side and sat down to meditate. Long Xingyun's face froze. He wanted to use this opportunity to praise Xiao Shui, but he ended up making a fool of himself. He glared at Mu Yu angrily before sitting down next to Xiao Shui. While Xiao Shui and Mu Yu were meditating, a blue light suddenly burst out of Muyu's body. It resonated with the blue light on Xiao Shue's body. Then, they gradually merged together, exchanging energy within their bodies. Long Xingyun's eyes widened. He watched as Xiao Shui and Mu Yu's auras intertwined. Furthermore, it was so natural. It was clearly the fusion of auras between two people who had reached a certain level of tacit understanding. It was the legendary dual cultivation. Yet, Xiao Shui and Mu Yu had such a level of tacit understanding. He couldn't hide his jealousy. Long Xingyan had liked Xiao Shui for a long time. Even if they were dual cultivating, it should be him and Xiao Shui, not her and Mu Yu. Xiao Shui, what are you doing? Long Xingyan couldn't help but interrupt Xiao Shui's cultivation. Xiao Shui opened her eyes. Only then did she come to her senses. She had only sat down to cultivate because she didn't want to talk to Long Xingyan. However, she had forgotten that cultivating with Mu Yu would create an indescribable effect. No, nothing. You and Uncle Yili should cultivate together. We still have to go to the 99th floor later. However, the gate of hell has already reached it. We need to be prepared. Xiao Shui's face was a little red. If Long Xingyun hadn't interrupted her cultivation, she would have probably fallen into that state with Mu Yu again. She didn't know if anyone would see her and Mu Yu doing that. What if, thinking of this, she quickly sat up straight, secretly glanced at Mu Yu, and then looked away. Long Xingyan noticed Xiao Shui's strange behavior. He would be an idiot if he still didn't understand what was going on. Chapter 695. Long Xingyun was worried that something would happen between Xiao Shui and Mu Yu, so he couldn't focus on his cultivation. Instead, he had been guarding Mu Yu with Xiao Shui. The more Long Xingyan thought about it, the angrier he got. If it weren't for Xiao Shui, he would have rushed over and fought Mu Yu again. Although he had already lost once, he still believed that Mu Yu was just lucky. Mu Yu woke up about an hour before the passage changed. He stretched lazily and didn't care about Long Xingyun's murderous gaze. He smiled and said, Xiao Shui, after cultivating with you last time, my cultivation base has improved tremendously. I feel like it won't be long before I reach the form synthesis stage. Really? Xiao Shui was surprised. Then she realized that she had overreacted, so she quickly covered it up. Long Xingyun was so angry that his lungs were about to explode. Mu Yu's words were so harsh in Long Xingyun's ears. It was as if Mu Yu was provoking him, and he said it so straightforwardly. It was unforgivable. Xiao Shui, you're the little princess of the monster clan. How could you? Long Xingyun suppressed his anger and tried to sound as calm as possible. It's none of your business. Xiao Shui didn't want to explain. How is it none of my business? I promised Grandpa that I would take care of you. Long Xingyun said anxiously. I could take care of myself. After all, I came here alone. Xiao Shui looked at Long Xingyun meaningfully. She was very dissatisfied with Long Xingyun's actions. Although Long Xingyun didn't hurt her, he still trapped her with the mermaid. If it weren't for her powerful control of water, she would still be in the dark. Long Xingyun's face turned red and white. He seemed very guilty. Mu Yu stood up and patted the dust off his clothes. He said, It's time to have a talk with the Sea Goblin King. Kid, I'm warning you. You'd better behave. Don't even think about the Sea Goblin King. Long Xingyun also stood up and glared at Mu Yu. Are you qualified? Mu Yu's body suddenly emitted a powerful aura. The cultivation of the 9th celestial stage of spirit severing stage was like a raging storm. It actually forced Long Xingyun back a few steps. Long Xingyun looked at Mu Yu in shock and anger. He was also at the 9th level of the spirit severing stage, but in front of Mu Yu, he felt small. How is this possible? I must have been hurt by that damn dragon a few days ago. Otherwise, this wouldn't have happened. Long Xingyun comforted himself. But, in fact, what he didn't want to admit was that, not long ago, Long Yeli had used his own dragon essence to help him heal the injuries he suffered during the fight with Long Tongue. The physique of the demon clansman was very strong, especially the dragon clansmen who had the bloodline of the green dragon. Their recovery ability was even stronger. Xingyun, don't randomly suspect others. Mu Yu doesn't have any ill intentions toward the Sea Demon King. Xiao Shui furrowed her brows. But he's a human. Long Xingyan said. Don't forget that he was the one who saved Uncle Ape. Xiao Shui looked at Long Xingyun and raised her voice. If it wasn't for Mu Yu, the White Ape Demon King would have been captured by the people from the Gate of Hell. Long Xingyun also knew about this. Long Xingyun was annoyed. Seeing that Xiao Shui was a little angry, he didn't say anything else. An hour passed very quickly, and the passageway had already undergone a change silently. Mu Yu signaled to Xiao Shui and walked into the tunnel first. The others followed closely behind Mu Yu. This time, they came to a strange place. It was a vast expanse of white that stretched as far as the eye could see. It was as if they had come to the clouds. Among the clouds, they could see the peaks of mountains and huge spheres. Every pillar was different in length. Some were so tall that the top couldn't be seen, and some were only 1 or 2 meters tall. The thickness was also different. Some thin pillars were as thin as chopsticks, and some thick pillars were so thick that 10 people wouldn't be able to hug them. These pillars of different lengths and thicknesses were scattered all over the place. There were thousands of them. Some were very close to each other, and some were very far away. Other than the pillars, there were also some huge square stones and spheres of different diameters. They ranged from the size of a palm to a dozen meters tall. There were all kinds of things floating in the air. Is this the place where the Sea Monster King is sealed? Where is the Sea Monster King? Long Xingyan asked. Is he sealed in one of these buildings? Long Yeli said. The two of them flew toward the nearest pillar. However, when it tried to get close to the pillar moved away. The way it moved was very casual, as if it was blown away by the wind. It also seemed that Long Xingyun and Long Yeli had some kind of repulsive force. The pillars didn't want to let them get close. What's going on? Long Xingyun refused to give up. He quickly approached the other pillar, but the pillar would always put some distance between him and the pillar before it finally stabilized. Mu Yu, these pillars seem to be avoiding us. What do you think? Xiao Shui wasn't as impatient as Long Xingyun. Instead, she asked Mu Yu. Mu Yu rubbed his chin and thought for a moment. He said, these pillars and stones have a very advanced formation cast on them. It's called opposite shore of the swamp. It's a formation used to protect things. Once something gets close, it will automatically disperse and keep a certain distance from each other. They won't touch each other. Swamp opposite shore was actually similar to so close, yet so far to a certain extent, but so close, yet so far was more suitable to be used in battle because it allowed the caster to counterattack at close range. Once swamp opposite shore was used, he would be pushed away. It was not as practical as so close, yet so far. Long Xingyan stopped trying. He yelled angrily, Then why didn't you say so earlier? Mu Yu looked calmly at him and said, The Demon Clan only sent someone like you, and it's a joke for you to want to save the Sea Demon King. If you're ugly, you should read more books. If you don't understand something, you should ask more questions. Don't blindly try. How dare you insult me? Long Xingyun's face turned red, but he didn't know how to retort. If you keep talking nonsense, I'll kill you, Mu Yu said impatiently. Long Xingyun still didn't understand the situation. He still thought he was a little prince of the shifters. He was arrogant and didn't have the strength to back it up. Long Yeli, who was in the body integration stage, was defeated by Mu Yu. Long Xingyun was nothing. Xingyun, when are you going to learn to respect others? Xiao Shui scolded. She knew that Mu Yu was only putting up with Long Xingyun's nonsense because of her. However, Long Xingyun's behavior was just too laughable. Long Xingyun forcefully suppressed the anger in his heart. After being reprimanded by Xiao Shui over and over again, his heart was already sullen to the extreme. His hatred for Mu Yu had also reached an unreasonable level. Xiao Shui asked, Mu Yu, is there any way to deal with this Zitai Nirvana formation? Mu Yu shook his head. The person who cast this formation has a higher cultivation than me. Normal methods won't work. I have to look around. Then he thought of something and said, That's strange. I remember pointing out a path for Boss Lu and the Dragon Turtle. They should have reached the 99th floor before us. Why haven't I seen them here? Let's look around first. There are too many pillars and balls here. They're blocking each other. Perhaps they've been here for a long time. They're just hiding somewhere we can't see, Xiao Shui guessed. Long Yeli took a glance at Muyu and asked, "If the Sea Fiend King is sealed in a pillar or stone, then how can we be sure where he is sealed?" "I don't know," Muyu answered bluntly. 5,000 years ago, enlightened Master Xian Jizi sealed the Siren King in the Devil's Sealing Pagoda. As for how he did it, no one knew except for enlightened Master Xian Jizi himself. Long Yeli didn't ask any more questions. Instead, he brought Long Xingyun through the pillars to see if there were any traces of Boss Lu and the others. Muyu stood in front of a pillar, thinking of a way to break the formation. He knew how to set up the Zatai Nirvana formation, and he also knew how to break it. However, this formation was set up by enlightened Master Xianjizi after all. Breaking it was going to take a lot of effort. This was especially true for the thousands of pillars and countless stones that had been imbued with the Zatai Nirvana formation. If he had to break it one by one, he didn't know how long it would take. Little Shuai, Long Tongue, did you two notice anything strange about these pillars? Muyu asked. Strange? What do you mean? Longting didn't really understand what Muyu meant. For example, the Siren King's aura, or the fact that some pillars are different from others, Muyu said. Little Shuai's nose was usually the most sensitive. He could often see some differences. Long Tongue was a dragon comparable to a demon king. In some aspects, his sense of smell was even more sensitive than Muyu's. Impossible. Don't you know what the Zatai Nirvana formation is? A formation used to protect something can naturally isolate the aura of something. Little Shuai shook his head and said. Long Tongue also shook his head. Then it seems like we can only use the stupidest method. Let's try to break the formation on one of the pillars first, Muyu said. Then which one should we start looking from? Long Tongue asked. That one. That one looks good. Little Shuai pointed at a pillar that was as thick as a bowl and said. Looks good? Little Mouse, do you think we're looking for carrots? That one is so small. How can it fit the Siren King inside? Long Tongue scolded. What if there's a spatial formation inside? What do you know? The Siren King is such a powerful person. You should at least find the thickest pillar to fit his status. This shows how righteous he is towards his prisoners. You're not even a human. How can you be righteous? But Reverend Xianjizi is. Little Shuai and Long Tongue began to argue about which pillar was most likely to hide the Siren King. They were very excited. Little Shuai insisted that the mini pillar was most likely to hide the Siren King, because Reverend Xianjizi liked to use the universe in the sleeve. Meanwhile, Long Tongue believed that the tallest pillar should be the one hiding the Siren King. Muyu also couldn't make a judgment. He had seen the Siren King's appearance in Reverend Xianjizi's illusion. At the very least, he had fought Reverend Xianjizi in his human form. That was why he estimated the Siren King's height and chose a pillar that seemed a bit bigger than the Siren King's head. He began to try to break the Zatai Nirvana formation on this pillar. Muyu began to calculate the effective range of the Zatai Nirvana formation. The bigger the pillar, the more powerful the Zatai Nirvana formation would be, and the more troublesome it would be to break it. The pillar's formation patterns quickly evolved in his mind. His eyes flickered with radiance. The pillar in his eyes turned into a body formed by densely packed formation patterns that rippled like water. Chapter 696. Deadwood once told Muyu that no formation was perfect. Every formation had a weakness. No matter how small the weakness of a formation was, as long as one could find the weakness, then the formation would break on its own. Strictly speaking, the opposite shore of the lake, formation wasn't impossible to approach. On the object being used, the formation pattern was constantly flowing, and its formation pattern would always have a weak point. At a certain time, the lake DUI position of the formation pattern would flow to the southeast. At that time, as long as one used a distant fire formation from the southeast within a certain distance, one could approach it. This specific distance had a requirement. According to the size of the object being protected, the distance to break the formation was different. Once one got too close, it would cause the pillar to automatically move away. If one got too far, the distant fire formation wouldn't be able to break it. In the 8 trigrams formation technique, according to the attribute of one's spiritual power, The position of the formation they were good at was also different. Muyu's spiritual power was of the wood element, so he usually used the wind and thunder positions. The distant fire position was learned by those of the fire element. The distant fire position was learned by those of the metal element. The mountain Jin was of the earth element, and the water ridge was of the water element. Fire restrained metal, so the opposite shore of the lake Dui formation needed the distant fire formation to break it. But that didn't mean that those of the wood element couldn't use other elements of the formation. It was just that the power would be reduced. Muyu knew a lot of formation techniques. He didn't often use the distant fire position's profound formation, but at least he understood some simple ones. Breaking the formation only required the distant fire position's formation. It didn't matter whether it was simple or complex. The reason why Muyu was surprised was because if there was only one pillar, stone ball, or square that was being used with the opposite shore of the lake Dui formation, then he could directly break it. But here, countless objects restrained each other. When the weak point of one pillar flowed out, another pillar or stone ball would appear at that specific distance to break it, blocking the opportunity to use the distant fire formation. And when the person breaking the formation got close to the wrong distance, it would disrupt the operation between them, and the weak point would disappear. The reason why Taoist master Xianjizi had arranged so many pillars and stones here was to interact with each other and conceal the weaknesses of the formation patterns, making it even more difficult to break the formation. Muyu's initial plan was to break the pillars one by one, but he soon realized that this was not feasible. If he wanted to break the formation, he had to take into account the positions of the thousands of pillars and memorize them all. This was a huge project. If a pillar was forced to move halfway, all the deductions would have to be done all over again. This formation is truly, frighteningly complex. Muyu couldn't help but shake his head. In order to trap the Sea Demon King, Taoist Xianjizi spent a large amount of energy to complicate the formation spell. And even with Muyu's deduction ability, he still couldn't deduce it in a short time. That Taoist master profound secrets really has nothing better to do, complicating Zhe Dui's nirvana formation. Didn't he say that the Demon King must be born? With his method of using the formation spell, without profound attainments in formation spell, there's no way to save the Sea Demon King. Little Shuai couldn't help but mutter after hearing Muyu's explanation. No, Taoist master Xianjizi's original intention wasn't for someone to break this formation, but to find the pagoda's spirit. Once the pagoda's spirit is found and controlled, everything inside the pagoda can be controlled. In that case, we won't need to break the formation at all, Muyu said. Muyu had come to the pagoda spirit this time to find the pagoda spirit, control the entire pagoda spirit, and then remove the restrictions on the demon island to free the trapped souls of Helian Kong and the others. However, he had almost run through the entire pagoda spirit, yet he still hadn't found the pagoda spirit. Now that he had appeared here, he had to make a choice. Should he continue to look for the pagoda spirit on the other floors, or should he spend time to break the Zhe Dui's nirvana formation? Which method is more reliable? Long Tongue asked. Both methods are unreliable. Who knows what the pagoda spirit looks like? Now, where's he sleeping soundly in some corner? If we want to break this formation, I'm afraid we'll need at least 3 days to figure it out, Muyu said with a headache. Soon, Xiao Shui and Long Xingyun returned. They didn't find any trace of Boss Lu, but they found another exit. As for where it led to, Xiao Shui and the others didn't know. Muyu briefly explained the situation in front of him, saying that he would need at least 3 days to deduce the array pattern of the Zeti opposite shore array formation and find the weak point of the entire array formation. 3 days? Why did it take so long? Don't tell me you're just making up excuses because you don't know how to break it? Long Xingyun sneered. Muyu glanced at Long Xingyun and said, Is that so? Then why do you think I'm making up excuses? Of course. You just want to show off in front of Xiao Shui, right? I know you humans too well. Long Xingyun said. Muyu frowned and said calmly, First of all, you have to understand that I'm not interested in saving the Siren King. It has nothing to do with me whether the Siren King comes out or not. I'm only here to stop the plan of the gate of hell and help others. You can do whatever you want. I don't need to help you. You think we can't save the Siren King without you? You think too highly of yourself. Long Xingyun snorted. Muyu shrugged and said indifferently, Then let's go save them. Why are you talking nonsense with me? Do you want to save the Siren King with your saliva? The main purpose of coming to the Demon Island was to find a way to repair his father's soul. Now that he knew who had the soul conversion technique, what he wanted to do now was to find the pagoda spirit, remove the restriction on the entire Demon Island, and leave the island. As for the Siren King, every time he got involved with the Siren King, nothing good happened. Taoist Master Xianjizi said that the Siren King must come out, but Taoist Master Xianjizi didn't say when the Siren King must come out. The Siren King must come out now, and the Siren King must come out in the future. All of this had nothing to do with Muyu. I will definitely save the Siren King. You don't need to worry about it, Long Xingyun said angrily. Muyu turned around and left. When Xiao Shui saw that Muyu was about to leave, she became anxious and caught up with him. She grabbed Muyu's hand and asked, Where are you going? I don't want to get involved in the matters of your demon race. The Siren King's coming out or not has nothing to do with me. Since your demon race has such a smart guy who can save the Siren King, I don't need to do anything. Muyu didn't want to waste words with an eyesore. If it wasn't for Xiao Shui, he would have already taught Long Xingyun a lesson. When Long Xingyun saw that Xiao Shui was holding Muyu's hand, his eyes burned with jealousy. Xiao Shui said earnestly, Can you help me? Help me save the Siren King. Xiao Shui, we don't need to rely on outsiders. We can save the Siren King ourselves. Long Xingyun said arrogantly. Save the Siren King ourselves? Xingyun, tell me, how are you going to save the Siren King? Originally, we were going to rely on Uncle Ape. He could have thought of a way to save the Siren King, but he left in such a hurry that he didn't leave behind any instructions. We don't know much about the Yao Ceiling Pagoda. What are you trying to do? Xiao Shui was very angry and scolded Long Xingyun. Long Xingyun was stunned by Xiao Shui's angry scolding. The flames of anger in his heart burned even brighter. In the past, Xiao Shui would never speak to him in such a tone. Even though Xiao Shui wasn't close to him, she didn't reject him either. However, ever since she met Muyu, Xiao Shui had been thinking about Muyu. Now that she was scolding him for Muyu's sake, his hatred for Muyu grew even more. Xiao Shui ignored Long Xingyun and turned to Muyu. She said sincerely, Muyu, I know you represent the human race. You're different from us, Yao, but can you do me a favor? Muyu looked at Xiao Shui's earnest eyes and thought about their current relationship. He sighed and reached out to pinch Xiao Shui's cheeks. All right, I'll do it for your sake. Long Xingyun trembled with anger when he saw how intimate Muyu and Xiao Shui were. What do you need us to do next? Xiao Shui felt relieved. Go and guard the 2 entrances on this level. Don't let anyone in. Also, don't go near these pillars. If the pillars shift even slightly, it will disrupt my calculations. Give me enough time, and I'll be able to figure out this spell formation and find its weakness, Muyu stated his request. All right, we won't let anyone in. Don't worry about that, Xiao Shui said solemnly. She walked to Long Xingyun's side and warned him to do as Muyu said. Just in case, she and Long Xingyun guarded one side, while Long Yeli, who was in the form synthesis stage, guarded the other exit alone. Even though Long Xingyun was furious, he didn't say anything. At the very least, he had a chance to stay with Xiao Shui. He glared viciously at Muyu before leaving with Xiao Shui. Long Yeli passed through the pillar formation and flew toward the other exit. After Long Yeli left, the pillars and rocks stopped moving. Only then did Muyu begin to analyze the pillars. Countless runes flashed through his eyes, and the arrangement of the pillars was dazzling. He needed to find a weak point in this complicated spell formation. This was the most complicated spell formation he had ever encountered. It wasn't that it was profound, but it was designed to be very complicated. Therefore, it would take a lot more time to decipher it. Muyu had to take into account the flow of runes on each pillar, each ball, and each square rock. He had to figure out the connection between them. Only then would he be able to decipher the spell formation. Little Shuai, long tongue, listen to my instructions. I need you to help me move a few pillars and balls away. The 8 trigrams runes under Mu Yu's feet surged, and the wind heart linking formation instantly enveloped Little Shuai and Long Tongue. The two of them quickly understood what Mu Yu meant. They followed Mu Yu's instructions and carefully walked over. Every time they took a small step, the pillars and balls around them would move away. The distance they moved was very particular. Mu Yu needed to calculate the next step based on this. However, Mu Yu soon realized that just him, Little Shuai, and Long Tongue were not enough. In order to speed up the calculation, he shouted at Xiao Shui. Xiao Shui, help? Xiao Shui nodded. She left Long Xingyun and immediately floated over. Use your wind heart linking formation. Xiao Shui did not summon the water spirit. The water spirit could communicate with Mu Yu's Mu Ling. However, Xiao Shui was avoiding this matter. She decided not to let the water spirit and Mu Yu come into contact before Mu Ling could figure out what was going on in his mind. Mu Yu looked at Xiao Shui in confusion. He did not think too much about it and enveloped Xiao Shui in the wind heart linking formation. Then, he instructed Xiao Shui to move some of the pillars. Long Xingyun's face was ashen at the entrance of the tunnel. He thought he could spend some time alone with Xiao Shui. Who would have thought that Mu Yu would directly call Xiao Shui away? Chapter 697. When the target moved, the runes on its body would change accordingly. Mu Yu needed to use these changes to plan the overall situation. The wind heart linking array conveyed the thoughts in Mu Yu's mind to the others. Countless profound and complex array patterns flashed through his mind. Apart from Little Commander, who understood array formations, who could keep up with these array patterns, Long Tongue and Xiao Shui were completely lost. However, Long Tongue was used to these messy formations, so it could happily hum its own tune. It would only move when Mu Yu asked it to. Little Commander could understand, but its mind was filled with thoughts of eating. With every step it took, it would wonder if the pillar in front of it looked like a stick of candied haws. Xiao Shui was confused. She was shocked by Mu Yu's complicated thoughts. If it wasn't for Mu Yu's reminder, she wouldn't know where to move. 20 hours had passed. With the help of Xiao Shui and the others, Mu Yu quickly figured out the general situation. In fact, he could ask Long Xingyun and Long Yeli to help. The more people there were, the faster he could move. However, Mu Yu didn't trust them. If Long Xingyun didn't move according to his instructions, it might disrupt his thoughts. Long Xingyun looked at Mu Yu and Xiao Shui with anger. He didn't know anything about formations and was still suspicious of Mu Yu. He had been thinking about how to deal with Mu Yu. At this moment, Long Xingyun seemed to have sensed something. He looked towards the tunnel. 2 people suddenly stepped out of the whirlpool in the tunnel. People from the Gate of Hell. He didn't expect the people from the Gate of Hell to have also found this floor. Moreover, there were 2 of them. However, their cultivation wasn't high. They were only at the 7th layer of the spirit severing stage. Long Xingyun was at the 9th layer of the spirit severing stage. With his strength, it was more than enough to block the 2 people from the Gate of Hell. However, a strange light flashed through Long Xingyun's eyes. A smile appeared on his face. Then he shouted, "Stop! This is not a place where you people from the Gate of Hell can come." Long Xingyun's voice was very loud, as if he was saying it on purpose for Mu Yu and Xiao Shui to hear. Mu Yu frowned. He turned his head and saw the people from the Gate of Hell. His train of thought was interrupted for a moment. But after seeing the cultivation of the 2 people from the Gate of Hell, he was not worried. As long as they were not in the form synthesis stage, Long Xingyun was strong enough to deal with them. Mu Yu quickly continued to deduce, ignoring the outsider. Long Xingyun had transformed into his monster form and was fighting with the 2 people from the Gate of Hell. The dragon python's roar echoed throughout the entire floor. Long Yeli heard Long Xingyun's cry from afar. He was worried about Long Xingyun's safety and wanted to rush over to help. However, Mu Yu shouted at Long Yeli, "Long Yeli, you are not allowed to come over. You can't afford to mess up these things." At this time, Long Yelly was on the other side of the passage. If he rushed over, he would have to pass through the pillars and spheres protected by the Nirvana realm formation. This would disrupt Mu Yu's calculations. Therefore, Mu did not allow Long Yelly to interfere. "My young master is in danger." Long Yelly stopped and said in a low voice, "If he can't even deal with 2/7 sky of the spirit severing stage, then he might as well be killed. If you affect the Sea Monster King's escape, don't say that I didn't warn you when your Green Dragon Monster King comes after you." Mu Yu shouted. Long Yelly's expression changed. He really couldn't afford to be accused of such a big crime. Xiao Shui frowned and said, "Why don't I go and help him, in case something happens?" "No, you're too far away now. If you move blindly, you will mess up all the pillars." Mu Yu shook his head. He was quickly calculating in his mind. The Nirvana realm formation of the entire Nirvana realm formation was getting clearer and clearer. He could not allow it to be interrupted. However, Long Xingyun suddenly screamed miserably. Following that, his huge dragon body instantly fell over. When his body fell over, a finger-sized sphere just happened to deviate from its original position in order to avoid his body. The formation patterns on the sphere surged. When it moved, the other pillars and spheres also moved. In an instant, all the objects protected by the Nirvana realm formation of the Nirvana realm formation were shifted. In an instant, the formation patterns became chaotic. Mu Yu frowned and looked at Long Xingyun coldly. "Xingyun," Xiao Shui exclaimed. She wanted to fly over to help Long Xingyun. She looked at Mu Yu questioningly. However, Mu Yu's speed was faster than Xiao Shui. The heavenly constellation's formation patterns flashed under his feet. He appeared in front of the two people from the Gate of Hell. The Shadow Clone sword had already been unsheathed. Before the sword had even fully pierced out, two bloody holes had already appeared on the throats of the two people from the Gate of Hell. Formation, worlds apart. Mu Ling crazily devoured the two people from the Gate of Hell. Even their twins couldn't escape. They were completely devoured by Mu Ling. The Shadow Clone's sword returned to Mu Yu's hand. Mu Yu's figure landed next to Long Xingyun. He placed the Shadow Clone sword on Long Xingyun's neck and said coldly, "You have a death wish." Of course, he could tell that Long Xingyun had lost on purpose. The two people from the Gate of Hell were much weaker than Long Xingyun. Mu Yu had fought Long Xingyun before. He knew how strong Long Xingyun was. It would only take a little effort for Long Xingyun to kill the two people from the Gate of Hell. However, Long Xingyun had lost on purpose to disturb Mu Yu. "Mu Yu, don't kill him." Xiao Shui hurriedly shouted. "What are you trying to do?" Long Xingyun transformed back into his human form and quickly retreated to Xiao Shui's side. He pretended to be frightened as he shouted at Mu Yu. As he moved, more and more pillars and stones moved away from him, making the entire formation even worse. "You can't beat these two people from the Gate of Hell," Mu Yu said angrily. Long Xingyun glanced at Xiao Shui. He knew that with Xiao Shui around, Mu Yu wouldn't do anything to him. So, he pretended to be weak and panted. "Of course I can beat them if it's any other day. But don't forget that you were the one who severely injured me a few days ago. I haven't fully recovered yet. How can I beat these two people from the Gate of Hell? You should be the one to blame for this." Long Yelly had already healed his injuries. As the little prince of the shifter race, Long Xingyun didn't have any elixirs on him. However, he just couldn't stand the sight of Mu Yu and Xiao Shui together. For the past few hours, he had been looking for an excuse to interrupt Mu Yu's calculation, but he couldn't find an opportunity. The sudden appearance of these two people from the Gate of Hell was equivalent to doing him a favor. Long Xingyun's sly smile disappeared as he continued to speak hypocritically. "Don't try to shirk responsibility just because you can't solve this formation. Xiao Shui, you saw it yourself. This guy is useless and wants to frame me." "Frame you?" Mu Yu narrowed his eyes. He despised Long Xingyun's actions to the extreme. As a member of the shifter race, this guy wasn't thinking about how to solve Gui's Nirvana formation to save the Sea Demon King. Instead, he was purposely finding fault with Mu Yu and not letting Mu Yu solve the formation. Because if Mu Yu solved Gui's Nirvana formation, Long Xingyun would feel embarrassed. That's right. You're just looking for an excuse for your own incompetence. Long Xingyun sneered in his heart. He really didn't care if the Sea Demon King came out or not, because it wouldn't benefit him at all. After Muyu saved the White Ape Demon King, Xiao Shui missed Muyu. Although the White Ape Demon King looked at Muyu with disdain, he often used Muyu as an example to educate Long Xingyun and the other shifter race members, especially during the battle for the spiritual Qi in 8 Grass Village. Muyu was in the limelight, but Long Xingyun was defeated by Shiman Wuji with a song. The White Ape Demon King was very dissatisfied with Long Xingyun's performance. When Long Xingyun was in the Azure Dragon Dynasty, he was like the moon surrounded by stars. However, he was criticized by the White Ape Demon King. Therefore, not only did Long Xingyun hate Muyu, but he also disliked the White Ape Demon King. If the Sea Fiend King Yujiang was saved by Muyu again, and he didn't help at all, he didn't need to think to know that his face in the Azure Dragon Dynasty would be swept to the ground. Perhaps the Sea Demon King would praise the human Muyu like the White Ape Demon King and criticize them. At that time, the genius prince of the Azure Dragon Dynasty would be too ashamed to show his face. Therefore, Long Xingyun didn't want Muyu to undo the formation. Even if they wanted to save the Sea Demon King, it couldn't be Muyu. Xiao Shui was in a dilemma. She didn't know if the injuries on Long Xingyun's body were real or not, but she couldn't blame him anymore. Instead, she probed, "Muyu, did you undo the Zatai Nirvana formation?" "No," Muyu said straightforwardly. Xiao Shui's face immediately showed a disappointed expression. "Xiao Shui, he's just tricking you. We don't need to rely on a human. As long as we work together, we can definitely save the Sea Demon King." Long Xingyun revealed a cunning smile. His expression was as if he already knew that his plan would succeed. It was very disgusting. "Then you guys do as you see fit." Muyu glanced at Long Xingyun in disgust. She resisted the urge to kill this guy with a single strike and walked to the side. The wood spirit transformed into a Bodhi tree. He silently laid down on the tree branch and began to close his eyes to rest. Little Shui and Long Tongue also jumped onto the branch. The two of them were munching on apples again. It didn't matter if it had nothing to do with them. To them, the Sea Demon King's appearance wasn't that important. If they had something to do, they'd run errands. If they had nothing to do, they'd eat something. If they didn't like someone, they'd just say something. Xiao Shui knew that Muyu was really angry. No one would feel good if they were interrupted at a time like this. She was also a bit angry at Long Xingyun. She wanted to plead with Muyu again, but in the end, she couldn't open her mouth. "Let's think of another way." Xiao Shui sighed. Saving the Sea Demon King was her responsibility, but it wasn't Muyu's. Unfortunately, neither Xiao Shui nor Long Xingyun knew anything about the Yao Ceiling Pagoda. If Boss Lu was here, there might be some hope. But Boss Lu was lost on some floor and hadn't come back yet. Muyu thought of Xiao Shui's attitude, and a strange feeling arose in his heart. Xiao Shui was still protecting Long Xingyun's life. Perhaps it was because of Long Xingyun's status in the Yao Ceiling Pagoda that Xiao Shui couldn't just stand by and watch something happen to Long Xingyun. But Muyu still held some grudges in his heart. "Muyu, why don't you continue to help Sister Xiao Shui?" Little Shui's voice rang out in Muyu's mind. He lay on Muyu's chest and took a bite of an apple. Muyu glanced at Long Xingyun, who was pretending to know and randomly touching things. He shook his head slightly. "We'll see." He was really disgusted by the short-sighted Long Xingyun. This guy valued his own reputation more than saving the Sea Demon King. He kept targeting Muyu and even created such a laughable act to stop Muyu. If Long Xingyun, as a Yao Ceiling Pagoda, didn't care about the Sea Demon King's appearance, then why should Muyu, as a human, get involved? Muyu was willing to do anything for Xiao Shui, but this was the only thing he didn't want to do. You know how to solve a DY Higgin, don't you? Dragon Vine swung its long tail and asked. Chapter 698. Long Xingyun had been trying to get on Xiao Shui's good side this entire time. He had proposed all sorts of ridiculous ideas, but none of them were practical. The pillars and balls that had been imbued with the Nirvana realm formation technique all avoided him like the plague. Unlocking the Nirvana realm formation wasn't something that could be done with Long Xingyun's flowery words. However, Long Xingyun wasn't discouraged. Xiao Shui was also discussing with him how to break the formation. This was Long Xingyun's goal. He wanted Xiao Shui to stay with him instead of Muyu. Xiao Shui, we think that the reason why the balls and balls can't get close is because we're not fast enough. If we're fast enough, we'll definitely be able to get close to them. I have 90% of the true dragon bloodline in me. I could try to use a secret technique to increase my speed to the limit. Long Xingyun's voice was very loud. He was saying this on purpose for Muyu to hear. Long Tongue snorted in disgust. Bastard. No, young master. Using the true dragon bloodline, like that will bring great harm to yourself. Long Yelly hurriedly said, although it will bring great harm to myself, I'm willing to take some damage to free the Sea Goblin King. Long Xingyun's face was filled with hypocrisy. Long Xingyun was already trying out this method. His body glowed with a gray light, and his aura was raised to a whole new level. He transformed into a dragon python again, and his scales glowed. He turned into a blur and charged at the nearest pillar. However, no matter how fast he was, the pillar didn't fall for his trick. It easily drifted away and maintained a distance from Long Xingyun. Idiot. Muyu had a green foxtail in his mouth. He glanced at Long Xingyun with disdain. This guy just liked to put on a show for himself. Unlocking the Nirvana realm formation technique with speed? Don't even think about it. If you don't surpass Taoist Master Xian Jizi's cultivation. Long Xingyun only had a fake true dragon bloodline. He wanted to rely on speed to unlock Taoist Master Xian Jizi's formation technique. What a fool. Xiao Shui didn't have much hope for Long Xingyun. Even if he activated the true dragon bloodline's true dragon bloodline, he wouldn't be as fast as Long Yelly's. Besides, if true dragon bloodlines' sides could really do it, Mu uses true dragon bloodlines as sides. Long Xingyun's words. He Xingyun's bragoffs the Nirvana realm. Long s twoses. Shwez to long shwez of course of this. Shwedesu twoses twos to soft to the Xingyun of long of suv. Of a long xians. Xingyun of a long of his. Twos to s twos. Was. Yes. Another branch grew out of Mu Yu's side. Xiao Shui had already landed on the branch. She sat down and said, I'm sorry for what happened just now. I don't know if Xingyun's injuries were real or fake, but he's always been like this. He's always been arrogant and condescending. Don't take it to heart. It's fine. I won't argue with people like him. Muyu looked down on Long Xingyun. Long Xingyun was too stupid. He wasn't on the same level as Gue, cherishing his life. Muyu didn't take Long Xingyun seriously at all. Gue, cherishing his life, was arrogant and wanted Muyu's life at all times. But at least he was strong and cunning. He wasn't stupid like Long Xingyun, who relied on claptrap to attract attention. Xiao Shui knew Mu Yu's personality. She sighed, we still know too little about the Sea Goblin King. We can only hope that Elder Lu can find us soon. He's lived for a long time. Maybe he knows how to save the Sea Goblin King. Mu Yu didn't say much. He was thinking about something. Can you try again? I know this request is too much, but Xiao Shui said hesitantly. Xiao Shui, don't you understand? If there's someone in the way, it won't work no matter how many times I try. To Long Xingyun, the Sea Goblin King's escape is secondary. He doesn't want you to make a move and steal his limelight. Mu Yu shook his head. He could spend a bit more time for Xiao Shui, but he didn't want to waste his time because of Long Xingyun. Xiao Shui's lips twitched. She looked at Long Xingyun in the distance and felt annoyed. Long Xingyun was spoiled and didn't understand the big picture. If someone like him controlled the entire Blue Dragon dynasty, the goblin race wouldn't be able to compete with the humans. A person with high talent, but a domineering personality, couldn't take on important responsibilities. But Xiao Shui had no choice. She stood in the goblin race's position and couldn't let Mu Yu kill Long Xingyun. I'm going to find a pagoda spirit. Once I find it, I'll be able to control the Yao Ceiling Pagoda, Mu Yu said. Since there was an eyesore here, Mu Yu didn't want to stay any longer. Otherwise, it would just be a waste of time. But you said the pagoda spirit could appear on any floor. How are you going to find it? Xiao Shui said anxiously. She didn't want Mu Yu to leave. I want to try my luck. At least it's better than staying here. Mu Yu sat up. If I find the pagoda spirit, I'll be able to control the Yao ceiling pagoda directly. I won't need to break the formation here. Xiao Shui clenched her teeth. Then go. I came to the Demon Island for the Sea Goblin King. I want to stay here and think of a way. Mu Yu also wanted Xiao Shui to go with him, but she had her own mission. He didn't force her. Be careful. If I see Boss Lu, I'll tell him to come here as soon as possible. Mu Yu smiled and put away Mu Ling. He walked towards the exit and left the 99th floor. Seeing that Mu Yu had left, Long Xingyun's eyes flashed with pride. We're leaving just like that? Aren't we going to teach that bastard a lesson? Long Tongue asked. That's right. You already know where Zhe Dui's weakness is. We can say it and slap him in the face. I like to see him flustered and exasperated, Xiao Shui said. I don't want to be a good guy. The Yao Prince didn't want you to interfere, so I don't need to. He's so strong, so let him play by himself. Mu Yu didn't know how to break Zhe Dui. Before he was interrupted by Long Xingyun, he had already memorized the rest of the steps. After dealing with the people from the Gate of Hell, he finished deducing the remaining formation patterns on the Bodhi tree. However, Mu Yu didn't want to reveal the method. He wasn't someone who liked to be in the limelight. Xiao Shui would trust him more if he revealed the method in front of Long Xingyun, and Long Xingyun would be fuming. However, Mu Yu didn't want to do that. Bickering with a retard would only drag him down. If there was a chance, Mu Yu would be more than willing to kill this retard to save him from being an eyesore. After returning to the 21st floor, Mu Yu casually searched every floor. He wanted to see where the pagoda spirit of the Yao ceiling pagoda was. He would enter any passageway he saw without looking at the floor number. He carefully searched every floor. However, just as he entered a forest, two figures suddenly floated by. Mu Yu frowned. It was the people from the Gate of Hell again. These two people from the Gate of Hell were in the form synthesis stage. This time, Mu Yu didn't act rashly. He stood behind a tree and used Mu Ling to conceal his presence. He watched as the two people from the Gate of Hell landed not far from him. Mu Yu had seen one of them before. It was Gue Dai. When he first met Boss Lu in the snowy mountains, Gue Dai and Gue Han wanted to steal the sea-quelling thousand ruler from Boss Lu. Mu Yu stopped them. Ghost Han had used a crystal ball to release the flesh-winged horn monster. Wood Feather had fought a bitter battle with it. Although she had killed the flesh-winged horn monster, Ghost Butterfly had escaped with the crystal ball. That crystal ball had the ability to summon the flesh-winged horn monster. Mu Yu had always wanted to take it back and destroy it. Senior Brother Gue Bao, I've already obtained the Divine Moonstone. However, Gue Han was possessed by a purple moon and died. Gue Dai said coldly. Gue Bao frowned and looked around. Gue Han shouldn't have taken the initiative to use the Divine Moonstone to summon the Moon God. You should know that the Moon God's projection can't fight without a sacrifice. He was used as a sacrifice by the purple moon. I'm not surprised that he died. Protect the Divine Moonstone well. Don't summon the Moon God's projection carelessly. Otherwise, you'll become a sacrifice yourself. I understand, Gue Dai said indifferently. Then he thought of something and asked, why don't we bring the newborns to the island? If we bring them here, the Moon God will use their bodies to revive. Wouldn't it be easier for the Moon God to find the Sea Goblin King? You must remember, we can't control the Moon God to do anything. They won't listen to our orders. Although newborns are perfect sacrifices, they'll be very weak for a short period of time. They won't have any fighting power, Gue Bao said. Gue Dai nodded. My mission is complete. I'm preparing to leave the subduing Yao Pagoda and give the Divine Moonstone to the Ghost King. What about you? Wait a moment. Come with me to the 46th floor, Gue Bao said. Why are we going to the 46th floor? Gue Dai frowned. Gue Bao used a secret technique to inform me that he's trapped on the 46th floor. We'll wait here for an hour. The passage will change soon. Gue Bao leaned against a tree next to the exit. How did Gue Bao get trapped? Gue Dai's expression changed. Gue Bao told me that it was Mu Yu who did it. He also told me about the strangeness of the 46th floor. We must be careful of the formation there. Gue Bao snorted. He didn't know that the 46th floor was a domain and not a formation. After that, the two fell into silence. Everyone from the Gate of Hell knew about the changes in the subduing Yao Pagoda's passage. It was clear that the people from the Gate of Hell had made ample preparations before coming to Ghost Island. They already knew about the subduing Yao Pagoda situation. It wasn't time for the passage to change yet, so Gue Dai and Gue Bao were waiting. Muyi was furious. He'd always wondered why the people from the Gate of Hell would kidnap 9 newborns. It turned out that they wanted to use the newborns as sacrifices for the flesh-winged horn monsters. That way, the flesh-winged horn monsters could be freed from the subduing Yao Pagoda. The subduing Yao Pagoda left behind by enlightened Master Xianjizi was too powerful. Even the people from the Gate of Hell couldn't drag the flesh-winged horn monsters out. However, they used something like the Divine Moonstone. It was the same crystal that Muyu had used to summon the flesh-winged horn monsters. It was terrifying. If the Moon God Stone wasn't destroyed, then in the future, it wouldn't be the 9 newborns that would be sacrificed. One must know that the 39th floor of the Moon Clan's prison held countless flesh-winged horn monsters. Unforgivable. Chapter 699. Although Muyu was furious that the people from the Gate of Hell wanted to turn the newborn into a monster with fleshy wings and horns, he didn't act rashly. Right now, he didn't have Hellion Kong's soul tool to protect him, and his cultivation was only at the spirit-severing stage. He didn't have any chance of winning against 2 people from the Gate of Hell who were at the body fusion stage. He had to wait for an opportunity. The Japanese really can't be underestimated. They really have a lot of tricks up their sleeves. Muyu was still too careless. He thought that it would be fine to seal Gue Pimming's body separately. He didn't expect that after Gue Pimming's head was buried in the ground by Muyu, he could still use a secret technique to call for help. This Blood Realm demon puppet's ability was really strange. Why is this Gue Pimming so tenacious? It's a guy that can't die. Long Tung muttered. Things like the Blood Realm demon puppet definitely have some restrictions. It's impossible that it can't die. There must be a way to kill it. Xiao Shui said. Muyu thought of something. When Gue Pimming summoned the Blood Soul, the skeleton could restrain the Blood Soul. Did that mean that the soul could also restrain the skeleton? It was a pity that Muyu couldn't verify this idea. Hellion Kong and the others couldn't enter the demon's subduing pagoda, and Muyu only had his father's soul in the soul anchoring formation. He couldn't risk his father's soul. Let's follow them first. After entering the 46th floor, the spirit extinction no immortal domain can suppress their cultivation. We'll kill the 2 of them together. Muyu pondered. Now that he didn't have Hellion Kong's soul tool, he could only rely on the spirit extinction no immortal domain to fight against the body fusion stage people from the Gate of Hell. Once he entered the spirit extinction no immortal domain, he would be more than enough to deal with the 2 people from the Gate of Hell. An hour passed very quickly. Gue Panther and Gue Dai stood up and walked to the next floor. This floor was the 43rd floor. The other passage on this floor led to the 46th floor. The entrance to the 43rd floor was a large canyon. They came out from under a waterfall in the canyon. The sound of flowing water could be heard. The ghost leopard suddenly stopped. It glanced at the waterfall and did not continue forward. The 46th floor, according to what Gue cherishes his life, said, "There's a domain there that will prevent us from using our spiritual energy. Just in case, you wait here for us. We will return to the next floor and head to the 99th floor." Gue Leopard said, "All right, come back quickly." Ghost Butterfly nodded and didn't say anything else. He stayed at the exit while Ghost Leopard went off to search for another exit, disappearing into the distance. F***CK, the Japanese are so insidious. Little Handsome cursed. Muyu also found it troublesome. He had originally planned to go to the spirit extinction without immortal domain to deal with the people from the Gate of Hell. But in the end, Ghost Leopard was actually so cautious that he left Ghost Butterfly behind. Ghost Butterfly was near the exit, which meant that Muyu could not follow Ghost Leopard to the 46th floor. The only way was to kill this person from the gate of hell. However, Ghost Butterfly was a body integration stage cultivator after all. Muyu would definitely have to pay a huge price to defeat Ghost Butterfly. If he couldn't kill Ghost Butterfly before Ghost Leopard returned, he would be in danger. That female ghost cultivation is around the third sky of the body integration stage. Can we kill her together? Long Tongue asked. Muyu shook his head. No, we can't do it. The hole where Gue cherishes his life was buried was not very deep. It didn't take Ghost Leopard long to dig out Gue cherishes his life's head. If we don't kill Ghost Butterfly and Ghost Leopard comes back, we will be in trouble. They're going to the 99th floor. We have to go back there too. Muyu continued. Xiao Shui was still on the 99th floor. If the people from the Gate of Hell were to go to the 99th floor, Long Yeli and Long Xingyun would not be a match for the people from the Gate of Hell. Muyu didn't want to care about the lives of the two people, but he had to protect Xiao Shui. Muyu originally wanted to destroy the exit like last time and block the people from the Gate of Hell from going to the 99th floor. However, this method was no longer feasible, because after the Hellgate people entered the Yao Ceiling Pagoda, they were clear about the changing patterns of each level of the Yao Ceiling Pagoda. They could easily calculate another path to the 99th level. If Muyu followed behind them, he wouldn't be able to destroy the exit every time. Sure enough, in less than 2 hours, Ghost Leopard came back from the passageway. In his hands was Gue cherishes his life's hideous head. Your body has been sealed separately. If we want to find them one by one, I'm afraid it will take a few days. Are we going to find them now? Ghost Leopard frowned and asked. Gue cherishes his life floated in the air. His expression was very ugly. His entire head shook, and all the soil flew out and left his head. No need. The Blood Realm Devil Puppet has already fused with my head. I can subdue the Sea Goblin King in my current state. We will go directly to the 99th floor. Gue cherishes his life, said coldly. A bloody head floated in the air. It looked very strange. Ghost Leopard and Ghost Butterfly didn't say anything. They walked directly to the exit. Muyu had already left this floor. He was waiting for the people from the Gate of Hell on the 43rd floor. He knew that Gue cherishes his life, and the others would also wait on this floor for 6 hours before continuing on. We have been to the next floor of this passageway before. It's the 67th floor. Muyu hid in the forest again. He suddenly had an idea. 67th floor? Is that the place where we can imagine little Mo? Dragon Tongue asked. Big Earthworm, why are you mentioning little Mo? Little Shui said exasperatedly. All right, don't quarrel. The array of the 67th floor is called Primal Chaos Opening. We know what kind of place it is. Maybe we can use this array to deal with those 2.5 Japanese. Muyu treated Gue cherishes his life as half a person. He now needs to create some trouble for these people. He needs to rush to the 99th floor before them to inform Xiao Shui. In the Primal Chaos Opening, anything can be imagined. However, the degree of imagination has a lot to do with one's mental power. If one imagines something whose cultivation is higher than one's own, it is very easy to consume all of one's mental power. In that case, one would have to have a good sleep. Are you saying that we can imagine something to deal with them? Little Shui immediately perked up. Whatever one imagines will appear. It won't be seen through. It can also be used to fight. This kind of fun thing is what it likes the most. And we can imagine a little Mo like last time. It will definitely scare them. Dragon Tongue said thoughtfully. We can, but don't imagine little Mo's cultivation when you imagine it. We can only imagine its aura. Little Mo is a 7th rank monster. If we imagine it using the strength of a 7th rank monster, we will tire ourselves out. Muyu said, the things one imagines are formed by array patterns. The aura can be passed off as real. If one doesn't break it, it is basically impossible to be seen through. This array uses the mental power of the imager as a guide. The more energy one has, the more powerful the things one imagines. At the same time, it is related to one's cultivation. If one has enough mental power, they can even create their own world in the Primal Chaos Opening array. Of course, with Muyu's current ability, It is impossible for him to imagine something as grand as a world. Little Shuai tilted its head. It doesn't care about little Mo anymore. Its little head is thinking of strange things. I have a good idea. The two of you need to cooperate with me later. We need to plan a strategy. Little Shuai said happily. Muyu used the wind heart linking formation to connect Little Shuai and Dragon Tongue together. This means that the three of them can work together to imagine and perfect each other. They can reasonably distribute their energy. The three of them quickly began to discuss the next battle. Little Shuai had the most ideas, but many of them were spur of the moment and messy. Muyu needed to perfect Little Shuai's strategy and modify Little Shuai's suggestions from time to time. Soon, the passageway on this floor began to change rapidly. 2.5 people from the Gate of Hell have already gone to the 67th floor. After Muyu cast an invisibility array on himself, he also entered the 67th floor after a slight delay. After entering the 67th floor, what entered their eyes was still the endless sea and the lonely island. However, if they want to go to the 99th floor this time, they have to go through another exit. Because of this, the people from the Gate of Hell had already left the island to search for the other exit on this floor. When Muyu came out, he saw the people from the Gate of Hell flying not far away. They still didn't know what kind of array was used on this floor. In order to trigger the primal chaos opening array, one had to use one's imagination to construct the array. One needed to very deliberately simulate the specific appearance in one's mind. If it was just the usual kind of abstract, fleeting thought that couldn't be shown clearly, it wouldn't become reality. All right, let's play with these 2.5 Japanese next. Little Shuai chuckled. Ghost Leopard flew at the front. He kept looking into the distance, trying to find where the other exit on this floor was. However, this floor was filled with endless sea. The other exit seemed to be a little troublesome to find. This floor is too big. How are we going to find the other exit? Ghost Butterfly frowned. Don't worry. According to the information collected by Senior Gue Yezi, the two exits aren't too far apart. This place looks endless, but it's actually just an illusion array. Gue Shiming said faintly as he floated. Although the people from the Gate of Hell knew the changing patterns of the Yao Ceiling Pagoda's exits, they didn't know what was on each floor. To them, it was just an array. Is it there? Ghost Butterfly suddenly pointed into the distance. Gue Shiming and Ghost Leopard looked in the direction she pointed and saw a floating island. This island was floating in midair. On it were jade buildings and immortal chi. It was like a place of immortals. There was also a waterfall that poured down into the sea. The appearance of this island in the middle of the endless sea was very strange. However, since they entered the Yao Ceiling Pagoda, they could see different arrays on each floor. There were snowy mountains, forests, plains, and everything else. Therefore, they weren't too surprised to see this floating island. Gue Shiming stared at the floating island with a trace of doubt in his eyes. This island looks very similar to the floating Immortal Isle. Ghost Leopard said, the floating Immortal Isle was designed by the Array sect. Xian Jizi used to be a member of the Array Glyph sect. When the Array sect designed the floating Immortal Isle, they probably used this island as a reference. The 2.5 Japanese didn't think too much about it. They directly flew towards the floating island. They didn't notice anything strange. They still didn't know what this floor was. Chapter 700. When the 2.5 Japanese landed on the floating Immortal Island, they discovered that the island was completely different from what they had seen from afar. There were no pavilions on the island at all, only a huge crack in the ground. The crack was about 5 meters wide, and it was covered with a layer of runes that rippled from time to time. Where's the exit? Ghost Leopard scanned his surroundings from the top of the floating Immortal Island. Aside from the huge crack in the ground, there was nothing else. This made him suspicious. Gue Pai Ming's head floated to the top of the crack and looked inside. It was pitch black inside, just like a prison. But at that moment, an aura that made their hearts palpitate came from the crack. Then, the runes sealing the crack suddenly trembled and rippled. This aura isn't. Ghost Butterfly exclaimed. Moon Goddess? There's a moon goddess locked up here. Ghost Leopard was very surprised. At that moment, an orange-winged monster suddenly pounced from the darkness, but it was blocked by the runes above the crack. The runes let out a muffled sound that spread far and wide. TSK, TSK. After so many years, someone has finally come. The orange-winged monster cackled as it looked at the 2.5 Japanese from the gate of hell through the runes. Greetings, moon goddess. Ghost Leopard and Ghost Butterfly hurriedly lowered their heads and said respectfully, "Cut the crap. Hurry up and think of a way to break the runes and let me out." The orange-winged monster said impatiently, "But, moon goddess, we can't break Enlightened Master Xianjizi's runes. We can only use the moon goddess stone to collect your aura. Once we leave the Yao Ceiling Pagoda, you can use a suitable sacrifice to temporarily revive yourself." Ghost Leopard said hesitantly, "That damn bastard. He locked me up in this dark place." The winged monster cursed angrily. Then, as if it had cursed enough, it turned to the people from the gate of hell and yelled, "Then what are you waiting for? Let me see that moon goddess stone." Ghost Butterfly took out the crystal ball, which reflected the shadows of all the winged monsters in the Moon Clan's prison. "Have you collected the auras of the other imprisoned brothers?" the orange-winged monster asked. "Yes, but whether or not I can summon you in the future depends on whether or not the sacrificial offering's aura is compatible with you," Ghost Leopard said respectfully. The orange-winged monster pondered for a moment and said, "Throw down the moon god stone. This crack is divided into many layers, and there are many imprisoned clansmen below. I need to collect their auras as well. But there are restrictions here. We can't," Ghost Leopard said. "The restriction here only targets living things. Other things can pass through it at will. I'll throw them to you after I collect them," the flesh-winged monster said impatiently. "Yes." Ghost Leopard hurriedly signaled to Ghost Butterfly. Ghost Butterfly was about to throw the moon god stone down. "Wait!" Gue Pai Ming's head, who had been silent all this while, spoke up to stop Gue Dai's actions. "Do you, a ghost servant with only one head, have any objections?" the flesh-winged horn monster asked coldly. Gue Pai Ming's face had a slight smile. He wanted to show a respectful smile, but because his entire face had been corroded beyond recognition, it looked more like a sinister smile. "Lord Moon God, please forgive me. I just have a few questions that I don't understand," Gue Pai Ming said respectfully, but his eyes flashed with suspicion. "What questions?" The flesh-winged horn monster was very impatient. "Before I came to the suppressing evil pagoda, Senior Gay, Yezi told us that the moon gods were all imprisoned on the first floor. Ghost Butterfly said that they were imprisoned on the 39th floor. Why are you all imprisoned here alone?" Gue Pai Ming asked humbly. What is Gue Yezi? Can he see through Xianjizi's thoughts? Xianjizi imprisoned us here alone because he wanted to leave a way out. Leave a way out? What way out? Gue Pai Ming asked in surprise. What way out? None of your business. Why do you have so many questions? I heard that people who talk too much die early. Did you lose your body because you talked too much? The flesh-winged horn monster sneered. Gue Pai Ming's face was sinister. Thinking about the matter of him being sealed by Mu Yu, his heart surged with anger, but he still said in a neither servile nor overbearing manner, "Sorry, it's my fault. I've offended you. Properly act as a ghost servant. Don't ask about things you shouldn't ask. Hurry and throw down the moon god stone," the flesh-winged horn monster shouted. Ghost Butterfly had already thrown the moon god stone at the flesh-winged horn monster. The moon god stone fell on the formation above the crack, spreading out a ripple as it fell. Gue Pai Ming kept staring at the flesh-winged horn monster. His expression changed unpredictably. Seeing the moon god stone fall, he suddenly thought of something, and his expression changed greatly. Not good. He's not a moon god. Take back the moon god stone, Gue Pai Ming angrily shouted. Ghost Leopard did not understand why Gue Pai Ming would suddenly say such words, because he would not mistake the aura of a moon god. Gue Pai Ming, what are you saying? But Gue Pai Ming's body was already filled with countless blood soul, smashing towards the formation. The seemingly powerful formation suddenly became very weak and directly shattered into pieces, turning into fragments that floated in the air. At this moment, the entire island was like a piece of paper, split into two by the sinister power of the Blood Soul. After tearing apart, the entire floating immortal island had already disappeared. The so-called indestructible seal could not even withstand a single blow. In Gui, Pai Ming's ghost fog formed a hand and tightly grabbed onto the Moon God Stone. "What's going on? Where's Lord Moon God?" Ghost Leopard asked in bewilderment. He still did not understand what had just happened. "This is not a moon god. This place seems strange. Keep the Moon God Stone," Gui Pai Ming coldly said. The Blood Soul wrapped the Moon God Stone and threw it to Ghost Butterfly. Although Gay didn't understand what was going on, she still quickly put away the Moon God Stone and carefully observed the situation around her. The floating immortal island was shattered. Everything had turned into formation dust, leaving only the ripples of the sea and the sound of the waves. Other than that, there was no other sound around. At the bottom of the distant sea, Muyu was pondering in a small bubble. Everything that had happened on the floating immortal island was naturally just their imagination. In order to trick these 2.5 people from the Gate of Hell, he had taken the risk to steal the Moon God Stone under the imaginary flesh-winged horn monster. Unfortunately, Gui Pai Ming seemed to have sensed that something was wrong and decisively destroyed the island in front of him. If it was not for Mu Yu's swift movements, Gui Pai Ming might have discovered his tracks. How do we expose ourselves? The aura and behavior of the flesh-winged horn monster were all perfectly imagined. Xiao Shuai muttered, "I'm not sure, but Gui Pai Ming is not to be underestimated. We've been fighting with him for so long. He's not as stupid as Long Xingyun," Muyu said in a low voice. Long Tongue said regretfully, "What a pity. We almost got the stone. That guy was too alert. We have to be careful. The Moon God Stone is on Ghost Butterfly. We have to find a way to steal the stone from her. We can't let this stone be taken out of the demon subduing pagoda." Muyu's expression was very serious. The Moon God Stone could summon the flesh-winged horn monster. If it was allowed to leave the demon subduing pagoda, the flesh-winged horn monster would borrow the body of a self-cultivator to be reborn. At that time, the third celestial stage would be doomed eternally. "Then let's continue with the backup plan," Xiao Shuai said. They had come up with many backup plans in a short period of time. After all, Gui Pai Ming was a very cunning opponent. "Yes, it's little Mo's turn." Muyu nodded. The people from the Gate of Hell were still on high alert. But at this moment, huge waves rolled out from the sea. 4 ink demon gorillas as tall as small hills poked their heads out from the bottom of the sea. These 4 ink demon gorillas each had 16 powerful and thick tentacles. The powerful aura of rank 7 demonic beasts instantly spread out from their bodies as they bobbed up and down in the sea. The waves splashed as they stared covetously at the 2.5 Japanese people. "It's a rank 7 monster." Ghost Leopard's expression changed slightly. A rank 7 monster was equivalent to a body fusion stage cultivator, but there were only 2.5 of them. It would be difficult for them to deal with 4 rank 7 monsters. However, the waves at the bottom of the sea surged, and 2 more huge black shadows leaped out. Then, 2 purple shadows broke out of the water. These 2 purple shadows were more than 50 meters long, and their huge bodies created huge waves. Their powerful and majestic roars spread far and wide from the bottom of the sea. Purple whale shark, one of the overlord-level monsters in the sea. Its strength was also a rank 7 monster. The people from the Gate of Hell quickly retreated. They were getting more and more frightened. This sea didn't look as calm as it looked. There were actually so many rank 7 monsters hiding here. However, there were still many sea flame beasts coming from afar. There were also countless sea flame beasts flying in the sky. These sea flame beasts were at least rank 6 monsters. Some of them even had the aura of rank 7 monsters. At the same time, there were also many small sea flame beast babies running on the surface of the sea. Be careful. Don't hurt the babies of the sea flame beasts. Gui Pai Ming shouted. He also knew that the sea flame beasts were very protective of their babies. Once the baby sea flame beasts were killed, all the adult sea flame beasts would go berserk. With so many rank 6 and rank 7 monsters appearing at once, the 2.5 people from the Gate of Hell couldn't help but be cautious. The aura of these monsters were very real. If they were to really fight, even the twins wouldn't be able to escape. All the monsters roared angrily, as if they had been violated. They were hostile towards the people from the Gate of Hell. Then, the monsters that blotted out the sky and covered the earth pounced towards the 2.5 people from Japan. Be careful. Don't fight. Quickly find the exit. Gui Pai Ming shouted, seeing that all the monsters were about to pounce on them. The people from the Gate of Hell emitted a dense ghost chi as they prepared to fight. However, at this moment, a tyrannical and overbearing aura suddenly exploded. It came from afar and arrived in front of the 2.5 people from the Gate of Hell. The seawater became very dangerous under the might of this aura. Gui Yeming's figure slowly appeared in front of the 2.5 people from the Gate of Hell. Ghost chi spread out in an instant, chopping all the monsters into pieces, turning them into a rain of blood. The seawater was immediately dyed red by the broken limbs of the monsters. Ghost Lord, why are you here? Gui Pai Ming was obviously stunned. Gui Panther and Gui Dai also revealed a pleasantly surprised expression. If I didn't come, I'm afraid you guys would be buried in the stomachs of these monsters. A bunch of trash. Gui Yeming snorted coldly. Looking at Gui Pai Ming, his eyes revealed a sinister expression. Where's your body? Gui Pai Ming's face revealed a sinister and ashamed expression. He quickly lowered his head and said, reporting to Ghost Lord, this subordinate was careless and was ambushed by Muyu. Ambushed. I didn't ask you to come to the demon subduing pagoda to listen to this kind of news. You've disappointed me too much. Gui Yeming was enraged. His body also emitted a powerful aura, causing Gui Pai Ming and the others to tremble in fear. Gui Pai Ming seemed to have thought of something and asked, Ghost Lord, didn't that Hellion Kong forbid you from coming in? And your aura? Chapter 701. Ghost King, the Moon God Stone has already established a connection with the imprisoned Moon God. However, Ghost Han accidentally summoned Lord Purple Moon. As a result, Purple Moon possessed him. Ghost Butterfly said hesitantly, Trash. Can't even handle a small matter. Gui Yeming angrily cursed, then continued to ask, Gui Shiming, have you returned to the past? Reporting to Ghost Lord, I already know the whereabouts of soul conversion technique. It is on Muyu. Gui Shiming lowered his head and didn't dare to conceal anything. When he thought of Muyu, Gui Piming's face was filled with anger. This was because he only had one head left because of Muyu. Muyu? It's him again. Don't worry about him for now. Muyu can't leave the island. He is already a turtle in a jar. We will catch him after we go out. The matter with the Moon Goddess is of utmost importance right now. Gui Dai, leave the Yao Ceiling Pagoda with me immediately. Gui Yezi wants to try his hand at the sacrificial ceremony. Gui Cherishing Life and Gui Leopard, you two continue to the Sea Goblin King's sealed area. You must capture the Sea Goblin King. Yes. Gui Shiming and others replied. Gui Yeming pointed ahead and said, the other exit of this floor is on a small island over there. You two go there immediately. I can't stay in subduing Demon Pagoda for long. The formation of this floor is very strange. Gui Dai, come with me. Gui Dai respectfully complied. Gui Shiming and Gui Leopard didn't hesitate and quickly flew towards the direction Gui Yeming pointed. Gui Yeming watched Gui Shiming and Gui Leopard walk away, then turned around and said, Gui Dai, let me see your Moon God Stone. Sir Ghost Lord, please take a look. Gui Dai took out the Moon God Stone without hesitation and respectfully handed it over to Gui Yeming. Gui Yeming stared at the image on the Moon God Stone and slightly nodded. Not bad. You did very well this time. Now I need to find a way to leave this place. Ghost Lord, please speak. Gui Dai still lowered his head. he didn't dare to look at Gue Yeming. "Give me your soul tool," Gue Yeming said. Gue Dai took out a white shoulder blade and placed it in Gue Yeming's hand. "Now close your eyes. I'm going to use a secret technique to take you out of the Yao Ceiling Pagoda. If you feel any discomfort, don't use your spiritual energy to resist. That's how the Ghost Realm's secret technique works." "Why do I have to close my eyes?" Ghost Butterfly was puzzled. Why did he have to close his eyes to use the secret technique? "There are some things that you shouldn't see. Do you understand?" Gue Yeming coldly snorted. "Yes, Lord Ghost Lord, please forgive me. This subordinate will do as you say." Gue Dai closed her eyes. What she didn't see was that after she closed her eyes, the corner of Gue Yeming's mouth suddenly revealed a gorgeous smile. This smile made Gue Yeming look very awkward. If Gue Piming was here, he would definitely be suspicious because they had never seen Gue Yeming smile before. However, Gue Dai didn't notice anything. She only heard a rustling sound. It was as if some branches were spreading and climbing up Gue Dai's body. Gue Dai frowned. She felt very uncomfortable because a pure death aura seemed to be covering her body. She recalled Gue Yeming's words and didn't resist. At this moment, Gue Dai's body suddenly shook. She opened her eyes in shock. She lowered her head and saw a tender green branch sticking out her chest. The branch released a powerful suction force that spread throughout her body and sucked away all of her life force. "Ghost Lord, you!" Gue Dai raised her head in anger, but met with Gue Yeming's bright eyes. She trembled. This wasn't Gue Yeming's size. "You're not the Ghost Lord. Who are you?" Gue Dai wanted to shout, but she suddenly covered her throat. Her throat was unknowingly pierced by the branch, and she couldn't make a sound. "Lower your voice. Of course, I'm not your Ghost Lord." Muyu slowly floated up from the sea and calmly said. He was playing with Gue Dai's soul tool. He wouldn't show mercy to the person who killed the gate of hell just because Gue Dai was a woman. Gue Dai still wanted to struggle, but she couldn't move anymore. Her life force was being sucked away by Mu Ling. Even her soul and the twins couldn't escape. It really wasn't easy. We finally got rid of female Ghost. Muyu slowly sank Gue Dai's corpse into the sea without causing a splash. He then looked at Gue Shiming and Gue Leopard who had already left. He didn't let down his guard. "Really? Why didn't you leave that Gue Leopard behind as well? With his intelligence, we could have killed him just like we killed this female ghost." Long Tongue said. Muyu shook his head. Gue Shiming is too suspicious. He only has his head left, and Gue Yeming still wants him to go to the 99th floor alone. He'll definitely be suspicious. That's why I have to let Gue Leopard go with him. That's the only reasonable arrangement. Everything that happened just now was Muyu's act. Actually, those rank 7 monsters and Gue Yeming's aura were all a bluff. If Gue Shiming and the Ghost Leopard had attacked the demon beast from the beginning, they would have immediately discovered that although these demon beasts looked incomparably powerful and their auras were genuine, in fact, they were just paper tigers. They would be exposed at the slightest touch and had no real combat power. Fortunately, Muyu imagined Gue Yeming in time. He imagined Gue Yeming's aura as a tribulation passing stage cultivator. He had Gue Yeming kill all the monsters and made up a convincing story. The most powerful thing about the primal chaos opening formation was that it could imagine anything. Gue Yeming's aura was just too powerful. It intimidated them. Even the naturally suspicious Gue Shiming couldn't react in time. Gue Shiming is such a smart person. Even the flesh-winged horned monsters couldn't fool him. Why did we fool him when we imagined Gue Yeming? Little Shuai asked with confusion. Muyu thought for a moment and said, Gue Shiming's head has fused with the Blood Realm demon puppet. I think the Blood Realm demon puppet must have some sort of connection with Moon God. That's why he was able to see through Moon God's disguise. The Gue Yeming we imagined was a tribulation passing stage cultivator. He had nothing to do with the Blood Realm demon puppet. Plus, I acted like I killed the monsters to save him. The primal chaos opening formation made it difficult to tell if it was real or fake. Whether it was powerful or not could only be determined after a fight. Little Shuai was in charge of imagining the movements of the powerful monsters and the scenes of them being shattered. Muyu was in charge of imagining Gue Yeming. The two of them worked well together. Luckily, we know a little about Gue Yeming's tone of voice. Muyu kept imagining what Gue Yeming would say. He used Gue Yeming's tone to fool Gue Yeming. To make it more convincing, Muyu even asked Gue Yeming about the whereabouts of Soul Return. He wanted to make the act more convincing. We already have the flesh-winged, horned monster's stone. What do we do next? Destroy it? Dragonvine asked. Muyu realized that the moon god stone was releasing a strange power. It seemed to be protecting it. With his current power, he couldn't break it. In the end, he chose to give up. Let's go to the 99th floor and see if Boss Lu has reached the 99th floor. Then, we can work together to fight Gue Shiming and Ghost Leopard, Muyu said. Even though Gue Shiming was only left with a head, Muyu didn't dare underestimate him. From the blood soul he used, Muyu knew this guy's power hadn't decreased even though he had lost his body. The blood-field demon puppet was a skull. At this moment, it was fusing with Gue Shiming. Even though Muyu had obtained Ghost Butterfly's soul weapon, this soul weapon would be restrained by the blood-field demon puppet. It was unrealistic for him to deal with Ghost Leopard and Gue Shiming alone. It's fine. Anyway, the exit we show them is fake, Xiao Shuai said unconcernedly. Muyu imagined an exit in front. After Gue Shiming and Ghost Leopard passed through this fake passage, they would appear on another floor. However, the other floor was actually an ordinary tower that Muyu imagined. In reality, Gue Shiming and Ghost Leopard were just going around in circles on this floor. Let's get out of here quickly. Our imagination is limited. The lower floors are just some random fabrications I made up. I can't make too many fake floors. The ghost will soon discover the flaws. Muyu said. Just as he finished speaking, the sky full of blood souls suddenly appeared again and covered Muyu. It really is you, Muyu. Gue Shiming's cold voice gradually sounded. F***CK, you found out that something is wrong so quickly? Muyu was shocked and quickly dodged. The blood souls couldn't do anything to him, but Gue Shiming's strength was still in the form synthesis stage, especially when Ghost Leopard was here. Gue Shiming said coldly, "The next floor is the 29th floor. I have been to that floor before. It is a huge altar. It is not an ordinary tower at all. The more I thought about it, the more I felt that something was wrong. When I came back, I saw you. So that's how it is." Muyu frowned. No matter how much he calculated, he had missed one point. This ghost cherished his life too much. Although he had been tricked by Muyu, Muyu had never been to the 29th level. His imagination of the 29th level had a flaw. Where's Ghost Butterfly? Ghost Leopard shouted angrily. Are you talking about that female ghost? Let me think. She has already become a water ghost. Muyu stepped on the surface of the sea, and suddenly the sea surface surged with monstrous waves, covering the line of sight of Gue, Shiming, and the others. Two huge dragon vines shot out from the sea and kept circling in the air. But Gue Shiming's icy cold blood chi rushed out, shattering all the illusions, and Muyu had already rushed through the entrance that they had just entered. He must leave this place. Just now he imagined a lot of things. It consumed a lot of his energy. Xiao Shuai is already yawning. The dragon vines are also listless. With his current state, he has no chance of winning against Gue Shiming and others. Swish! Muyu stepped on the island and disappeared from the island. Gue Shiming and Ghost Leopard stopped at the entrance. Ghost Leopard wanted to chase after him, but Gue Shiming stopped him. Aren't we going to kill him? Ghost Leopard asked angrily. No need. We must quickly go to the 99th floor and take down the Sea Demon King. Gue Shiming said coldly. I'm afraid Ghost Butterfly has met with misfortune. The Moon God Stone has also fallen into his hands. We must take back the Moon God Stone. Ghost Leopard said in a hurry. Why are you panicking? He can't destroy the Moon God Stone. Since he can't destroy it, he can keep it for us for a while. He can't get out of the Demon Island. Sooner or later it will fall into our hands. Gue Shiming shot out a blood soul and collapsed the entire island's exit, not allowing Muyu to come in. After a quarter of an hour, the island's exit will change, and the exit will recover in half an hour. This means that Mu Yu can't enter this floor. Chapter 702. The Japanese are really cunning. They can even find us like this. Little Marshall couldn't help but scold. Mu Yu also felt quite vexed. He couldn't beat Gue Qiming and Ghost Leopard right now. Other than running, there was no other way. Gue Qiming didn't chase after them. He should be looking for the real exit to the 99th floor. Mu Yu was worried about Xiao Shue's safety, so he had to return to the 99th floor. He calculated the fastest route. If this level was the starting point, it would take 12 hours to reach the 99th level. This made his heart sink, because the Ghost Cherish's life route would take him at most 3 more levels to reach the 99th level. The time taken would be around 5.5 hours. He didn't know if Xiao Shui could escape from Gue Qiming's hands in the next hour. What do we do now? Long Tongue asked. There's no other way. We can only wait for the exit to change on this floor and hurry to the 99th floor. Mu Yu didn't have any better ideas. Long Xingyun and Long Yeli couldn't stop Gue Qiming and Ghost Leopard. With Xiao Shue's personality, she wouldn't let the gate of hell succeed. When the time came, there would definitely be a confrontation. The ones who would lose would be Xiao Shui and the others. It was useless for Mu Yu to be anxious now. He had to wait for the exit to change. Then, he remembered the moon godstone he got from Ghost Butterfly. He took it out and wanted to see if he could find a way to break it. However, Mu Yu tried all kinds of methods, but he couldn't destroy it. Whether it was Mu Ling or his shadow clone sword, they couldn't leave a scratch on the moon godstone. Little Marshall, try using your little claws. Mu Yu threw the moon godstone to Little Marshall. Little Marshall flicked his thin claws. The claws left a white shadow in the air and sank into the moon godstone. Hiss! The moon godstone was split into 2. Little Marshall's claws were really indestructible. At least, he had never encountered anything that he couldn't cut with his claws. However, the moon godstone was the same as Gue Peiming's head. After it was cut off, it would automatically stick together. There was no way to separate it. I know how to deal with this thing. Flesh-winged horn monsters are most afraid of sunlight. If we take this under the sun, we might be able to deal with this ball, Little Handsome suggested. Or I can go find the eternal day, forbidden land that Father mentioned, and leave this thing there. That's fine too. Mu Yu remembered Deadwood Daddy's advice. To kill the flesh-winged horn monsters, he needed to use the ultimate daylight spirit of the forbidden land of eternal daylight. Mu Yu had no idea what the ultimate daylight spirit was. The flesh-winged horn monster was trapped in the Yao Ceiling Tower and could only be reborn through the moon godstone. This meant that if the moon godstone was left in the forbidden land of eternal day, the flesh-winged horn monster had no chance of escaping. The 99th floor. Xiao Shui was still at a loss. She had no idea how to approach the pillars and balls. Long Xingyun had been happily trying all sorts of methods, but none of them worked. They were all bark and no bite. Xiao Shui, I just remember a method that Grandpa taught me. Let me show you. Long Xingyun's arms were covered in dragon scales. Rings of golden light glowed brightly on them. Ripples spread out and formed into the shape of a heart. They moved toward the pillars and balls. This was his best skill. Back in the Azure Dragon Dynasty, he had used this skill to capture the hearts of many demonesses. He would often display it in front of Xiao Shui. Normally, Xiao Shui would only praise him out of politeness, but today, Xiao Shui wasn't interested at all. Xiao Shui looked at the heart-shaped ripples. She knew Long Xingyun was trying to please her. However, the heart ripples looked different in her eyes. She discovered that Mu Yu's shadow seemed to be in the heart of the ripples. Xiao Shui shook her head. After Mu Yu left, Xiao Shui felt a little disappointed. She knew Mu Yu was still in the tower, but she felt like she was miles away from Mu Yu. She really wanted Mu Yu to stay by her side. When Mu Yu left, he seemed to be in a bad mood. Xiao Shui wanted to leave with Mu Yu, but she had to find a way to save the Siren King. So, she could only stay with Long Xingyun. Long Xingyun had been doing childish things in front of her. Xiao Shui looked at Long Xingyun's funny face, but her mind was full of Mu Yu. Compared to Long Xingyun, Mu Yu was the one she could rely on. She knew that after that accident, everything seemed to have changed. Xiao Shui, is this heart ripple pretty? Long Xingyun asked with a smile. He had no intention of saving the Siren King. Everything was just to draw Xiao Shui's attention to himself. Yeah, Xiao Shui answered casually. Long Xingyun sat down beside Xiao Shui. Don't worry, we will definitely save the Siren King. Didn't Elder Lu say that? Lord White Ape gave him something. He can use that thing to save the Siren King. We just have to wait here for Elder Lu. Long Xingyun held Xiao Shui's hand, but Xiao Shui suddenly pulled her hand back. Long Xingyun saw Xiao Shui's reaction and was very angry. He had seen Xiao Shui not have such a big reaction when Mu Yu touched her hand. I don't know when Elder Lu will be here. I hope he will be quick. Xiao Shui's gaze fell on the exit. Her eyes flashed with a trace of expectation. However, this trace of expectation was mixed with a certain charm. She was not looking forward to Elder Lu. She was looking forward to someone. The person who had left not long ago. Long Yeli walked over and said, "Why don't we go find Elder Lu and see what's wrong with him? Why hasn't he appeared yet?" Xiao Shui shook her head. No. Mu Yu said that the exit could change at any time. Once we leave, we might not be able to come back. It's better for us to wait here. Without Mu Yu leading the way, we won't be able to get anything out of this place. Long Xingyun said disdainfully. People like him like to be in the limelight. I think he's just spouting nonsense. If he could break this formation, he would have done a long time ago. Waiting for a few days is just an excuse. Xiao Shui frowned. She did not like Long Xingyun speaking ill of Mu Yu. Xingyun, Mu Yu is a formation master. The owner of this demon-sealing pagoda is also a formation master. If there's anyone who is most likely to save the Sea Goblin King, it's definitely him. Xiao Shui's tone was very serious. Long Xingyun was very jealous. He snorted coldly. Just as he was about to insult Mu Yu, something seemed to have changed at the exit. A voice was heard. He turned around and saw a person from the gate of hell and a repulsive head floating in the air. Someone from the gate of hell is here to die again. Long Xingyun stood up and looked at Ghost Leopard coldly. As for Ghost Leopard, Long Xingyun directly ignored him. In his opinion, a head could not cause any trouble at all. Although Ghost Leopard was at the form synthesis stage, they had Long Yeli at the form synthesis stage on their side. In addition, Long Xingyun and Xiao Shui had Shui Yuming's ability. In Long Xingyun's eyes, it was a piece of cake for them to deal with this person from the gate of hell. So the devil race has been here for a long time. Not bad. Ghost Leopard looked at Long Xingyun and the others ferociously. His eyes were cold and sinister, making them tremble in fear. It's Ghost Leopard. Xingyun, don't be careless. We are no match for him. Xiao Shui did not underestimate the enemy like Long Xingyun. Although Ghost Leopard's head did not seem to have much combat power, and his aura was not very powerful, she felt that something was wrong. I'll kill them, Ghost Leopard said with a murderous look. Don't kill them yet. I need a complete body. Ghost Leopard sneered. You want to kill us? Let me kill you first. Long Xingyun was already very angry. His hands had already transformed into pitch-black dragon claws. He had never liked humans, especially the people from the Gate of Hell. Xingyun, don't be rash. These two people from the Gate of Hell are not simple, Xiao Shui said in a deep voice. Long Xingyun laughed. Xiao Shui, don't be afraid. For people from the Gate of Hell, as long as they are not in the tribulation stage, I don't care about them at all. You wait here. Uncle Yeli and I will take care of this hindrance. Long Xingyun and Long Yeli rushed towards Ghost Leopard. His dragon claws drew a black mark in the air and grabbed towards the head. Long Yeli pounced towards Ghost Leopard. Their attacks were very fierce and did not show any mercy. They wanted to win with one strike. Ghost Leopard, go and capture them alive. I'm worried that Blood Soul will turn their souls into holes. The souls of the devil race are also very strong. Ghost Leopard said, Clowns, leave them to me. A dense ghost chi emerged from Ghost Leopard's body. A twin jumped out from the ghost chi. Countless pitch-black chains rattled and rolled over like venomous snakes. Long Yeli rushed to the front. His arm had also turned into a dragon claw. He clawed at the pitch-black chains. In his opinion, his dragon claw was incomparably hard. It was not a problem for him to crush the chains of the people from the gate of hell. When the chains collided with the dragon claw, Long Yeli's expression suddenly changed. A cold and gloomy chi entered his body through the dragon claw. This cold chi seemed to have ignored the demonic power in his body. His entire body felt as if it had fallen into an ice cellar. "Young master, quickly leave this place," Long Yeli shouted. He knew that he had underestimated Ghost Leopard. With a flash of his body, he had already revealed his huge dragon form. He was in the form of a flood dragon, but he was still far from a dragon. He wanted to leave the range of the ghost chi, but the chains followed him like a shadow. In an instant, his huge body was tightly bound. The gloomy and cold ghost chi entered his body, causing the demonic power in his body to be unable to circulate. In just one exchange, Long Yeli, who was in the form synthesis stage, was defeated by Ghost Leopard. Long Xingyun was also shocked. He finally understood how laughable he was. However, his speed was not as fast as Long Yeli. Thus, he fell behind. When Long Yeli was captured, he stopped in his tracks. Without saying a word, he turned around and ran. At this moment, Xiao Shui also rushed over. The water curtain that filled the sky poured down and turned into countless icicles that shot towards Ghost Leopard. However, the ghost chi poured into the icicles in an instant. Those contaminated icicles turned into pools of black water and sprinkled down. Long Xingyun could not dodge in time. He was splashed by the black water that was contaminated with ghost chi. He felt as if he had taken a cold shower. The demonic power in his body was also frozen. A terrifying ghost chi invaded his body, causing him to be unable to condense his demonic power. He was directly hung on the ground. You can't even withstand a single blow. Ghost Leopard looked at Long Xingyun with a cold smile. Then, he glanced at Xiao Shui, who was resisting the ghost chi, and asked, "Gue Pixie, among these three, whose body do you want to use?" Gue Pixie glanced at Long Yeli and Long Xingyun. A trace of satisfaction appeared in his eyes. These two have the souls of dragon vines. However, this form synthesis stage guy's dragon soul is not strong enough. His body is not as good as this guy's. Chapter 703. Bastard, let me go. I'm the prince of the devil race. Long Xingyun shouted angrily. The prince of the devil race? Then your dragon vine bloodline must be very high. Not bad, not bad. Gue Ziming's head floated in front of Long Xingyun, giving him a fright. He could even see the red veins and flowing blood on Gue Ziming's face, which made Long Xingyun's hair stand on end. What do you want? Long Xingyun felt a chill in his heart. He grew up in the devil race, but he had never met someone from the gate of hell who could still live with half a head like Gue Ziming. Don't you know what I want? This girl's body is the most suitable for my blood realm devil puppet, but you're a man, and your body isn't bad either. I'm in a bit of a dilemma. Should I choose you or that girl? Gue Ziming stuck out his tongue and licked his already tattered lips. His tongue was still stained with his own blood. I'm warning you, if you dare to touch a hair of mine, my grandpa, Green Dragon Devil King, will never let you go. Long Xingyun said fiercely. Long Xingyun was still hoping that Green Dragon Devil King could scare off the people from the gate of hell. After all, the 10 Devil Kings were very famous, and people in the self-cultivation world were very afraid of them. However, it would be strange if the members of the Hellgate were frightened by the Azure Dragon Monster King. They were completely heartless and unscrupulous. Back then, they went to the second layer of heaven for the White Ape Monster King. Now, they came to the Demon Island for the Sea Monster King. Why would the people from the gate of hell be afraid of Green Dragon Devil King when they specifically targeted the Devil King? Gue Ziming sneered. If you devils want to find us from the gate of hell, then come. We from the gate of hell also like your souls. Compared to normal self-cultivators, your souls are better. Gue Ziming approached Long Xingyun. He suddenly closed his eyes and sniffed Long Xingyun, as if he was smelling Long Xingyun's soul. What do you want? Long Xingyun was scared silly by Gue cherishing life's perverted actions. He realized that his identity was not worth mentioning in front of the people from the gate of hell. He was no longer as spirited as before, and his heart was filled with panic. I'm thinking whether I should choose your body or that lady's body. That woman's body can make me stronger, but I'm not willing to take a woman's body. What do you think? Gue Pai Ming sneered. Choose, choose. Long Xingyan looked at Gue, cherishing his life in horror, then glanced at Xiao Shui, who was trapped by the ghostly aura. He gritted his teeth and shouted, Choose her. I'm the prince of the demon race, and I'll control the entire Azure Dragon dynasty in the future. As long as you let me go, you'll be an honored guest of my Azure Dragon dynasty in the future. Choose her. Gue Pai Ming snickered. Of course I can choose her body, but I want your soul as well. You can't kill me. I beg you, don't kill me. Long Xingyun was frightened by Gue, cherishing his life's expression, and shouted in horror. Don't worry, I'll deal with her first. It's not your turn yet. Gue, cherishing life, glanced at Long Xingyun with disdain, then turned to Xiao Shui. Last time, you and Mu Yu separated my body. Now that you're in my hands, I'll take your body as compensation. Xiao Shui was not afraid at all. Her expression was calm. If you want to kill me, then kill me. What's with the nonsense? Xiao Shui looked at Long Xingyun indifferently. She had heard everything Long Xingyun said, and she was already disappointed in him. Usually, Long Xingyun used his identity in the Azure Dragon dynasty to do whatever he wanted. Xiao Shui didn't want to bother with him, and even stopped Mu Yu from killing him. But this time, Long Xingyun's choice made Xiao Shui understand that some things were unforgivable. Long Xingyun, you're so pitiful, Xiao Shui said softly. Then, Mu Yu's face appeared in Xiao Shui's mind. Back in the second heaven, Mu Yu and Xiao Shui didn't have any relationship. But Mu Yu had chosen to give Xiao Shui the teleportation jade pendant and let her leave so that he could face everyone alone. Compared to Long Xingyun, who had betrayed his companions, Mu Yu held an unshakable position in Xiao Shui's heart. You're not afraid of death. This makes me look forward to your body even more. Gue, cherishing life, sneered and flew toward Xiao Shui. The sky full of blood souls quickly turned into a huge blood shadow. At a closer look, it was Gue, cherishing life's usual appearance. The red light on the blood shadow flickered and flowed. It was clearly stinking blood, and there were many blood souls struggling in the blood. The blood shadow gradually shrank as it moved toward Xiao Shui, until it was the same size as Xiao Shui. It wanted to merge with Xiao Shui. Xiao Shui looked at the approaching Gue, cherishing life. The water spirit had already spread out and dispersed all the ghost chi. The water spirit was very special. It was on the same level as Mu Ling. However, Mu Ling wasn't afraid of ghost chi, but the water spirit was. I won't let you have your way. Xiao Shui gritted her teeth. A green dragon scale appeared in her hand. The dragon scale instantly turned into a layer of quintessential essence and covered Xiao Shui's body. Green stripes appeared on Xiao Shui's skin. These stripes were profound and complicated. Then, they turned from green to azure. Her eyes were like two blue gems, emitting a cold chill. Her originally black hair also turned blue. It was as soft as a blue waterfall, gently floating behind her. Icebound 1,000 miles. The azure water curtain flowed in the air. It was light and sharp. The surrounding temperature quickly dropped. Everything was frozen and withered. This was a frozen world. All the ghost chi seemed to have slowed down. Long Xingyun, who was trapped by the ghost chi, couldn't help but shiver when he saw Xiao Shui's transformation. He was so cold that ice crystals appeared on his eyebrows. Long Xingyun seemed to have thought of something. He shouted, Xiao Shui, Grandpa said that you can't use this dragon scale to borrow Shui Yoming's power. Otherwise, including yourself, we might all freeze to death. Freeze to death? Do you really think your identity as a dragon prince will allow you to live? Xiao Shui's voice had completely changed. Normally, her voice was like the tinkling of spring water. It was cheerful and crisp. However, at this moment, it was like ice that wouldn't melt for 1,000 years. It was cold and penetrating. When it reverberated in the ears of others, it was bone-chilling. Gue Shiming frowned. His blood shadow stopped. The surrounding cold air seemed to have frozen the blood on his face. His blood soul also became unstable. These blood souls were objects without a physical body. Very few things could stop their attacks. However, at this moment, they were affected by the cold air. What a powerful ability to control water! Gue Shiming exclaimed. His eyes revealed an extremely greedy expression. He had once seen the ability of Shui Yoming's spirit lord, Xianming, in an ancient book in the sect. When Shui Yoming's ability to control water was unleashed to the extreme, it could freeze everything, including the blood and spiritual energy in a person's body. Gue Shiming knew that Shui Yumeng was in Qiao Shui's body. If he could control Qiao Shui's body and obtain her ability, his combat strength would rise to another level. Your body is mine. Gue Shiming laughed sinisterly. The blood light on his body shone brightly. All the ice on the blood souls seemed to have melted. They pounced on Qiao Shui again. Snowflakes floated in the air. These snowflakes seemed to have a life of their own. They enveloped all the ghost chi and froze them into ice crystals. My body only belongs to me, Qiao Shui coldly shouted. All the ghost chi was frozen by the snowflakes. From afar, it looked like a black fog covered with a layer of crystals. It did not fall, but it was also unable to move. At this moment, a joyful voice sounded from Qiao Shui's body. Two beautiful creatures flapped their wings and floated out of the water. They sang in the air. Their frail bodies were so spiritual that people could not help but feel pity for them. Blue lightning suddenly shot out from the water. It quickly flowed between the snowflakes. All the gloomy ghost chi was instantly cleansed by the lightning and disappeared. Gue Leopard kept retreating. A white soul power surged out of his body and wrapped him in it to resist the cold. He was extremely shocked in his heart. Even his body integration stage cultivation felt threatened by the bone-chilling cold. Gue Shiming's blood souls that were originally close to Qiao Shui seemed to cower. They were also afraid of the lightning released by Yingyu. His blood souls were nimble and flexible. They kept dodging in the air. They shuttled through the intertwining lightning. They avoided all the lightning and grabbed at Qiao Shui. Gue Shiming's speed was very fast. His body had already turned into a blood shadow. The ghost hand in the blood shadow had already touched Qiao Shui's skin. However, just when Gue Shiming's hand touched Qiao Shui, his face changed. He immediately pulled his hand back. The temperature of Qiao Shui's body had already dropped to a terrifying level. Now, Gue Shiming only had his head and soul left. The moment he touched Qiao Shui, his soul trembled. Even his soul was not immune to that terrifying cold. Ice ceiling 1,000 miles. This ability could actually be so powerful. How can she withstand this kind of cold? Gue Shiming coldly looked at Qiao Shui's skin. At this moment, Qiao Shui's skin had become extremely pale and translucent like crystal. Then, Gue Shiming's pupils shrank. He saw cracks appear on Qiao Shui's body. It was as if an ice cube had been smashed. I would rather turn into an ice sculpture than let you take over my body. Qiao Shui's voice was still so cold. However, her consciousness had become somewhat fuzzy. Shui Yoming's freezing ability was too overbearing. She had never dared to use this ability casually. Normally, she would only control water. She did not dare to lower the temperature of water by freezing it, especially after Spirit Lord Shui Yumeng was sealed. His body could not withstand such a low temperature. What a stubborn woman! Gue Shiming retreated. He did not dare to touch Qiao Shui's body again. Qiao Shui had already become the source of the cold. That temperature was extremely low. Once he entered Qiao Shui's body, his soul would be instantly frozen. Rather die than submit? Gue Shiming's blood souls shrank back. Only his head was left. His head quickly retreated to Gue Leopard's side. The two of them released a gloomy spiritual power together to resist the terrifying cold. Death is nothing to be afraid of. Qiao Shui's voice gradually weakened. She could withdraw her ability. However, once she did so, with her current cultivation, her body would be taken over by Gue Shiming. She would not allow other men to casually touch her body. Her body now belonged to that carefree young man. Darkness gradually invaded her. She was not even afraid of death. However, at this juncture, only Mu Yu's figure remained in Xiao Shue's mind. Xiao Shui liked this young man who dared to pursue his beliefs, even if there was another girl in his heart. Even if you choose Tian Ran in the end, I will keep my chastity for you. Xiao Shue's gaze was filled with determination. She felt herself sinking. It was as if she had fallen into a boundless abyss. However, a warm current suddenly spread throughout Xiao Shue's body. It was a familiar feeling. It was as if spring flowers were blooming, the ice and snow were melting, and everything was returning to spring. Silly girl, I said that I would protect you. Chapter 704. The moment the water spirit came into contact with Mu Ling, a warm feeling swept over Xiao Shue's body, and the chill in her body gradually dissipated. Her dry skin also began to heal under the vigorous vitality. She opened her eyes and saw Mu Yu's familiar face. Next time, don't use abilities that can harm others and yourself, understand? Mu Yu patted Xiao Shue's head and hugged her tightly. The warmth of his chest melted the chill in Xiao Shue's body and pulled her heart back. Xiao Shui could feel the anxiety and nervousness in Mu Yu's heart and felt a burst of joy in her heart. It turned out that he had never left. She liked the feeling of being hugged in someone's arms. Do you like it when I hug you? Then I'll hug you every day from now on. Mu Yu giggled. Xiao Shue's face turned red. Only now did she realize that after the water spirit and Mu Ling fused together, they could communicate telepathically. Mu Yu knew exactly what she was thinking just now. Don't be naughty. Let's deal with the people from the gate of hell first. Xiao Shui broke free from Mu Yu's embrace and stood up. Her originally cold and stiff body had already regained its senses. The spiritual power in Mu Yu's body was still exuberant, flowing through her body and healing her internal injuries. The meridians in her body were like rain after a long drought, rejuvenating and revitalizing her. Japanese people are really annoying. Mu Yu turned his gaze back to Gue Shiming with disgust in his eyes. If he hadn't arrived in time, Xiao Shui would have fallen into an irreversible danger. Brat, are you in such a hurry to die? Gue Shiming glared at Mu Yu. He had been disrupted by Mu Yu time and time again, not to mention that his body had been separated. The resentment in his heart towards Mu Yu wasn't something that had only existed for a day or two. Now that he saw Mu Yu, all the old and new hatred welled up. He had to settle this once and for all. Mu Yu looked at Ghost Leopard and Gue Shiming. Both of them were at the combination realm, especially Gue Shiming. Even though he only had one head left, it seemed that his cultivation was not affected at all. Back then, the Blood Realm Demon Puppet was also a head dripping with blood. Gue, cherishing life, had fused with the Blood Realm Demon Puppet and only needed a head to survive. Truly an unkillable cockroach. Mu Yu quickly thought of a countermeasure. Long Xingyun and Long Yeli's bodies were still stiff. If Xiao Shue's ability had been delayed for a moment, the two of them would have been frozen into ice sculptures. Now that it was impossible to count on the two of them for help, he could only rely on himself and Xiao Shui. However, Gue Ziming suddenly turned around, turned into a bloody shadow, and quickly flew toward Long Xingyun. Long Xingyun's eyes widened in fear as he shouted, "Xiao Shui, save me!" Xiao Shui furrowed her brows. She recalled Long Xingyun's choice in the face of Gue Qingliang and felt uncomfortable. She turned her face away. This kind of person should have died a long time ago. Mu Yu already knew what had happened through Xiao Shue's mind. When Long Xingyun was threatened by Gue Qingliang, he let Gue Qingliang choose Xiao Shue's body in order to save his own life. Now, he was shamelessly asking Xiao Shui to save his life. Long Xingyun shouted, "I am a shifter. Even the shifter emperor is useless," Gue Qingliang said ferociously. Long Xingyun's voice suddenly stopped. Gue Qingliang's bloody shadow had already fused into his body. Long Xingyun's body suddenly trembled, and then his body underwent a strange change. His blood seemed to be boiling, his skin began to crack, and his veins were exposed. Even his bones were visible. A white shadow was pulled out of Long Xingyun's body. It was Long Xingyun's soul. Long Xingyun's soul had not lost consciousness yet. He still had a panicked expression on his face as he desperately struggled to escape from Gue Qingliang's control. But Gue Qingliang did not give him a chance. Although this is not the soul of a true descendant of Dragon Vine, it is pure enough. Not bad, not bad. Gue Qingliang had taken over Long Xingyun's body, and the flesh on Long Xingyun's face was slowly changing into Gue Qingliang's face. He stood up and slowly moved his body. There was a series of bone-cracking sounds coming from inside his body. "We should have saved him," Qiao Shui suddenly said. Muyu nodded. Indeed, Long Xingyun has become Gue Qingliang's reborn body. But there is no way we could have saved him. You should have let me kill Long Xingyun earlier. After Gue Qingliang had taken over Long Xingyun's body, he did not immediately consume Long Xingyun's soul. Instead, he trapped him in the air. He looked at Muyu and Qiao Shui with disdain. "Do you two know what these pillars and balls mean?" Muyu was confused. After Gue Qingliang had taken over Long Xingyun's body, the first thing he did was not attack them. Instead, he asked them a strange question. "You came here to find the Sea Goblin King, but you don't have the Blood Realm Devil Puppet, so you can't sense the Sea Goblin King's existence. But I can show you. I will let you experience the feeling of helplessness when hope is right in front of you, but you can't touch it. Only then will I be able to kill you." Gue Qingliang laughed sinisterly. After killing so many people, he liked to see the despair on people's faces. Muyu had always been against him. He did not want to kill Muyu directly. He walked towards one of the pillars. The pillar was obstructed by a formation, and it was a distance away from him. However, Gue Qingliang did not care. He stopped at the limit of the pillar. He stretched out his hand, and a blood-red light shot out. It turned into specks of starlight. Then, countless blood souls jumped out of the light and pounced towards the pillar. Just now, the pillar could avoid any attack, and it could also avoid any object approaching it. But it did not have any reaction to these blood souls. The blood souls directly landed on the pillar. Every blood soul bared their fangs and brandished their claws, tearing and biting the pillar. The stone on the pillar was broken apart piece by piece. Soon the pillar was gnawed to pieces, and the thing inside was exposed. Inside the pillar, there was a dense white skeleton. This white skeleton was in the form of a goblin. It looked like a human, but it had a slender tail. This white skeleton was surrounded by formation patterns. The formation patterns were like a cage, trapping this white skeleton inside. Could it be that there's a white skeleton trapped in these hundreds and thousands of pillars? Qiao Shui's expression changed. No one knew how Taoist Master Xianjizi had sealed the Sea Goblin King. That's right. This is indeed the graveyard of a Sea Goblin King. The Sea Goblin King you're looking for is among these white bones. Gue Ziming smiled. His smile was very evil. Countless blood souls flew out of his body again and rushed toward all the stone pillars and stone balls. These blood souls were like locusts passing through. After gnawing on a pillar and stone ball, they continued to pounce on the next one. It was as if they were hungry, and they were extremely crazy. In just a short moment, more than 1,000 skeletons appeared in front of them. There were big and small skeletons. Most of them were human-shaped goblins, and their bodies more or less had the characteristics of goblins. Those huge pillars and stone balls were the goblins' original forms. For example, there was a 20-meter-long sand killer whale, a 50-meter-tall coiling sea snake demon, a 30-meter-tall sea flame beast. There were all kinds of skeletons, and they were similar to the skeletons of the goblins on the Sea Goblin Island. The only difference was that the color and texture of these imprisoned skeletons seemed to be very hard. They were not on the same level as the skeletons of the goblins outside, but they were on the same level as Hellion Kong skeletons. Which skeleton do you think belongs to the Sea Goblin King? Gue Ziming laughed cruelly. The Sea Goblin King also became a skeleton? Muyu didn't understand. Wasn't the Sea Goblin King an immortal body? Even if it was sealed, it shouldn't have died. How could it be a skeleton? Ignorant and inexperienced. There are only souls and skeletons on this island. What do you think caused this? Gue Ziming laughed coldly. It was as if he was chanting, and a kind of awkward syllable came out of his mouth. This syllable was sour and unbearable. It was extremely unpleasant to hear, and there was no pattern to it. However, every time he chanted a syllable, all the blood souls would become extremely excited. They passed through the seal and attached themselves to every skeleton. The originally white skeletons seemed to have been plated with a layer of red blood paint and emitted a demonic red light. Every skeleton was flowing with light and vibrant colors, and a fishy smell penetrated the formation patterns, assaulting their nostrils. Blood Realm Demonic Puppet, King of all bones, only I am supreme. Gue Ziming shouted loudly, and all the skeletons wrapped by the blood souls began to move with a rustling sound as if they were alive. Their bones didn't scatter under the support of the blood souls, but slowly moved. Then, all the skeletons suddenly faced the sky and let out a long howl. That kind of mournful sound came from the skeletons, and it carried a trace of whistling sound. It was as if the skeletons were leaking air, but the pitch was terrifyingly high. The deafening sound made Muyu and Xiao Shui involuntarily use their spiritual power to seal their hearing. But even so, the sound still reverberated clearly in their minds, and it didn't disperse for a long time. A scarlet light flashed in Gue Ziming's eyes, and he revealed a cold smile. Do you know which one is the Sea Goblin King? Muyu's gaze swept over all the skeletons, and he quickly noticed that one skeleton was different from the others. The reason why he was different was because this skeleton had a tall and mighty human form. It didn't have any characteristics of the goblin race, and it emitted an insufferably arrogant aura. Even if it had become a skeleton, it could still vaguely feel its disdainful majesty. After so many years, someone has finally come here. What Muyu didn't expect was that this skeleton could actually speak human language, and Muyu had heard that voice before. It was the Sea Goblin King Yu Jiang, whom Muyu had seen fighting against venerable Xian Jizi. The Sea Goblin King's empty eye sockets turned toward Muyu and the others. Then he took a look at Long Yeli, who was still trapped, and Long Xingyun's soul, which was trapped by ghost qi in the air. He said calmly, "Blood Realm Demonic Puppet, is this a trick of the gate of Hell's people?" Gue Ziming laughed. The Sea Goblin King Yu Jiang is really experienced and knowledgeable, and you actually saw through my ability at a glance. The Sea Goblin King was silent for a moment. Then he said, "In order to refine the Blood Realm Demonic Puppet, how many high-level demonic beasts did you kill? How many people did you kill? And how many skeletons of demonic beasts and humans did you collect?" "Not more, not less. Exactly 9,999, Gue Ziming said with a smile. His smile sent chills down one's spine. Chapter 705. They are Azure Dragon Dynasty's monster clansmen. You shouldn't have seized their bodies. The Sea Demon King's voice was quite calm. Since he was just a skeleton, outsiders couldn't see his expression clearly, and they couldn't judge his mood. The Sea Demon King clearly knew what happened outside. He already knew when Muyu tried to break the formation, and he also knew how Long Xingyan deliberately caused trouble for Muyu. But the Sea Demon King's voice couldn't be transmitted because he was surrounded by the formation's outer layer, and he couldn't say anything. Gue Piming sneered coldly and said, "I have the Blood Domain demonic puppet now, and you are just a skeleton. You can't go against my orders. It's useless for you to control me. There are Xian Jizi's formation restrictions here, and it will be difficult for you to break his formation techniques." The Sea Demon King didn't deny anything. He had a good understanding of Xian Jizi's formation techniques. After all, he was sealed by Xian Jizi in the past, and he still couldn't escape now. "I really can't break the Zaidi Permitha, but I have 4 living sacrifices, and I can bypass the Zaidi Permitha's restrictions. I can use my soul to open a passage and help you escape. You should thank me. Gui Piming shifted his gaze from the Sea Demon King to Mu Yu, Xiao Shui, and the others, and a ruthless glint appeared in his eyes. Sacrifices? Mu Yu furrowed his brows. I originally planned to use the souls of the human race that I collected in advance, but I found that the souls of the two of you are much stronger. So, are you going to obediently surrender, or do you want me to personally kill you? Gui Pai Ming sneered. Your blood soul isn't enough to kill us. After Mu Yu ate a strange peach from the reincarnation seal, he wasn't afraid of these blood souls. Even though the reincarnation seal's protection time was limited, Xiao Shui picked a large pile in the past, and he still had some left. These blood souls were different from ordinary souls, and they possessed strange abilities. But Gui Piming knew that it wouldn't be easy for him to kill Mu Yu and Xiao Shui by relying on blood souls. I don't need to rely on blood souls. Ghost Leopard and I are enough. The person you want to save is right in front of you, but I will kill you with my own hands and let you die in despair. Gui Pai Ming laughed loudly. Ghost Leopard had already walked to Gui Ziming's side. His body integration stage, aura, was like rolling thunder as he faced Mu Yu and Xiao Shui together with Gui Ziming. Mu Yu held Xiao Shui's hand. Xiao Shui, do you trust me? Xiao Shui was stunned for a moment before she nodded slightly. Okay, use your cooling ability again. This time, I will protect your body, Mu Yu said. Mu Yu and Xiao Shui's cooperation could produce unexpected results. It's just that Mu Yu didn't know that Xiao Shui could use such a powerful ability to control water and temperature. Otherwise, he would have thought of a way to use this ability to deal with Gui cherishing life. Xiao Shui said hesitantly. Back then, the Nine Heavens Demon Sealing Array sealed Xian Ming's ability. I can barely use the ability to control the temperature with the help of Grandpa Azure Dragon's dragon scales. However, the dragon scales have less and less quintessential essence, so the duration is limited. How long? About half an hour. All right, half an hour it is. The black and white spirit energy in Mu Yu's body surged and poured into Xiao Shui's body like a warm current, protecting Xiao Shui's meridians. Xiao Shui's eyes turned azure again. Water flowed out of her hand and turned into droplets of water that filled the air. But what surprised Xiao Shui was that every droplet of water contained a cyan seed. This is? Xiao Shui asked in surprise. Mu Yu wasn't very clear about the specifics. These seeds weren't controlled by him. But after the water spirit and Mu Ling combined, the water spirit's droplets were automatically wrapped with these insignificant cyan seeds. The only thing Mu Yu was sure of was that these cyan seeds contained a huge amount of vitality. It's the waterwood spirit. I have seen it before. Mu Yu thought back to the Huiyuming's lava cave outside of Mistbreath City. When the waterwood spirit fused together, the water droplets released were also like this. At that time, he was able to turn the ferocious Huiyuming into a pot of lava. The finger-sized water droplets floated out and quickly scattered in the air. In an instant, all the water droplets turned into crystal-clear ice droplets. Like a beautiful piece of art, they wrapped around the cyan seeds. The surrounding temperature dropped again, and the cold air began to spread in all directions. You're still using this trick? Too bad it's useless against me. Gui Piming glowered at Xiao Shui. Xiao Shui's ability to control temperature affected him greatly. But now that he was in control of Long Xingyun's body, he could rely on his powerful cultivation to resist the cold air. Gui Piming took out Gui Yezi's soul armament. His soul armament was as black as ink and exuded a powerful soul force to protect him. Countless droplets of blood shot toward Mu Yu and Xiao Shui like arrows. Icebound 1,000 miles. Xiao Shui cried out. Absolute cold air swept out again, and the ice droplets shot towards the blood arrows like bullets. The blood arrows contained the destructive power of the Tyrant of Darkness. They pierced into the ice droplets in an attempt to contaminate the ice droplets and turn them into their own. But at that moment, the seeds within the ice droplets seemed to be summoned by something and sprouted in an instant. They were originally seeds the size of sesame seeds, but in the blink of an eye, they grew into stalks of green plants. These plants were also very small, and they grew in the finger-sized water droplets. They did not break through the water droplets, and they were like miniature plants. Violets, ivy, morning glory, root grass, colored glass flowers. There were even weeping willows, immortal-seeking pines, summer fir trees, and other miniature trees. Plants of all shapes and sizes rippled within the ice beads, bursting forth with vitality. After the blood arrows entered the ice droplets, the leaves of these plants trembled slightly and absorbed all of the blood arrows, turning them into their own nutrients and becoming even more vibrant. What? Gue Shiming's pupils shrank. He was very familiar with his own blood arrow. It was composed of sinister blood souls. Blood souls could restrain a lot of things. They had a form but no body. They cannot be blocked by spiritual power or magic weapons. They were real soul-killing weapons. He knew that Mu Yu and Xiao Shui were already immune to blood souls, so he deliberately added Gue Shiming's soul power to the blood souls. It was enough to injure a person's body. However, he did not expect that Mu Yu and Xiao Shui would still be able to successfully stop the blood arrows. Moreover, the entire process was natural, as if the blood arrows were just there to give them warmth. The end of water and wood, specialized in restraining demons and ghosts. Mu Yu was not surprised by the plants growing within the ice droplets. Water could nourish wood, and wood could protect water. The two complemented each other and were the most perfect combination. After the ice droplets absorbed the blood arrows, they did not encounter any obstruction and continued to envelop Gue Shiming and the ghost leopard. The vitality contained within them was extremely powerful, causing the ghost energy to retreat. Isn't this the ability of Xian Ming and Gomong? How can these two humans possess their power? The Sea Goblin King looked at Mu Yu and Xiao Shui from the side. This time, his voice was filled with surprise and confusion. Clearly, the Sea Goblin King was not unfamiliar with Xian Ming and Gomong. The bone-chilling cold made Gue Shiming and Gue Bao feel that the spiritual energy flowing in their bodies had become sluggish, but they did not stop. A red ghost blade appeared in each of their hands. This ghost blade had a strange skull engraved on it, and rays of gray light flickered within it. As soon as the ghost saber appeared, it emitted a red glow that enveloped them, resisting the biting cold qi. Then, a ghostly hand suddenly stretched out from the red glow, and a majestic and evil ghostly qi instantly shattered all the ice beads that were coming toward them. After the ice droplets were scattered, they turned into even more small ice droplets. Inside each ice droplet, there were even more delicate plants that were blooming vividly and did not disappear. Little devil, I'll give you 100 flowers blooming, 10,000 trees meeting spring. All the delicate plants in the ice droplets suddenly burst out of the ice droplets, and branches and leaves rapidly grew out of the ice droplets. Thousands of branches and tender green leaves swayed in the air, spiraling towards Gue Shiming and the ghost leopard. The red light formed by the red ghost knife was tightly wrapped by all the branches. The veins of the leaves were suffused with white, and the branches were suffused with black. When they got close to the red light, they had already eroded a big hole in the red light. Gue Shiming and the ghost leopard could only retreat again, but this time, Xiao Shui's icicles blocked their path from behind. Northern Underworld's 9 Fiends Ghost General descends. The ghost leopard shouted, and 9 fiendish auras emerged from his body. The fiendish auras intertwined in the air and rotated into a 9-star array. Black gas spiraled out of the array, and a huge black ghost shadow was faintly discernible. The evil secret technique of the Ghost Realm's bloodline, the Ghost General Technique. At that time, in the Mayan Mountain Range, Gue Xianyue used the Ghost General Technique to replace the immortal confining prison's array core. Although he didn't succeed in the end, the Ghost General Technique still left an extremely deep impression on Mu Yu. At this moment, the real Ghost Realm's child was on the Demon Island, so the ghost general technique used by the ghost leopard must be even more perfect. The moment the ghost general appeared, all the branches that were rolling towards Gue Shiming and the ghost leopard suddenly changed direction, and all of them bombarded the ghost general's body, but the ghost general didn't suffer any damage. The ghost general had the ability to steal the sky and change the sun, and could replace someone to deceive some rules. When Mu Yu controlled those branches to attack, he locked onto the aura of Gue Shiming and the ghost leopard. But because the aura of Gue Shiming and the ghost leopard were transferred to the ghost general, the branches also made a mistake and attacked the ghost general instead. When cultivators fought, because their speed was very fast, it was impossible to hit the opponent just by feeling. If you want to deal with the enemy, you must firmly remember the opponent's aura. When using magic, you must also use the enemy's aura as a guide, so that the magic weapon flying sword wouldn't miss. But the ghost general technique was too evil. It could transfer the aura, so that Gue Shiming and the ghost leopard were equivalent to invisible people. They didn't have aura, and their speed was very fast. Mu Yu wanted to use their aura as a guide to hit the two from a long distance. Chapter 706. It was impossible for Mu Yu to be faster than the two of them. Without the help of a soul tool, it was very difficult for him to contend against a body fusion stage expert. At this moment, Gue Shiming and Gue Leopard had already seized the opportunity and rushed towards Mu Yu and Xiao Shui. They were very fast. Mu Yu also quickly adjusted the position of the tree branch, wanting to block Gue Shiming and Gue Leopard. But because the aura locked onto was off, Mu Yu's tree branch always missed by a hair's breadth and was unable to hit Gue Shiming and Gue Leopard. Gue Shiming and Gue Leopard arrived in the blink of an eye and smashed down with their blood-colored axes. Bang! Mu Yu stood in front of Xiao Shui and forcibly blocked Gue Shiming's killing blow with his shadow clone sword. But the power of a body fusion stage expert still gave Mu Yu a lot of pressure. Fortunately, his body was hard enough, and formation patterns immediately gushed out from his body and neutralized the blow. The shadow-splitting sword was pulled out of the void. The endless sword chi slashed out and struck Gue Ziming's shoulder. It sank into Gue Ziming's body, but Gue Ziming did not even frown. He continued to throw a punch. Mu Yu and Gue Shiming's fist collided again. Gue Shiming's strength was still too strong after being strengthened by the Blood Realm demonic puppet. Mu Yu crashed into Xiao Shui, and the two of them were sent flying. But Gue Leopard was like a shadow following them. The red ghost blade was already waiting for the two of them in the path they were flying out. Mu Yu clenched his teeth and pulled Xiao Shui. He fused with Mu Ling and narrowly avoided Gue Leopard. Then the two of them reappeared. "Little girl, can you summon seawater?" Sea Fiend King's voice came from the formation patterns in the distance. Yes. Although she didn't understand why Sea Fiend King asked this question, Xiao Shui quickly replied, "Little girl, think a way to come here. I need seawater." Sea Fiend King muttered to himself for a moment and said, "Lord Fiend King, but we can't pass through the Zadie Shore formation here." Xiao Shui said hesitantly, "Come with me, we can make it." Mu Yu pulled Xiao Shui into the cage with the Zadie Nirvana formation. The skeletons quickly distanced themselves from them, but Mu Yu didn't care. He already knew how to break the formation that trapped the skeletons. Mu Yu had already figured out how to break Zadui's otherworld, but he hated Long Xingyun's arrogance, so he chose not to help. Currently, he and Xiao Shui were having a hard time dealing with the body integration stage Gue Ziming and the Ghost Leopard. Zadui, on the other hand, had become his trump card. At this moment, the positions of all the cages had been disrupted. Each of these cages had a flaw, but this flaw was covered up by the other cages. Moreover, because the array patterns of the cages were constantly moving, the flaws were constantly changing. However, at the end of the calculation, there would definitely be a flaw that couldn't be covered up. This was the method to break Zadui's otherworld formation. Mu Yu quickly calculated the disrupted cages in his mind. He already knew the original positions of these cages. Even if they were shifted, Muyu could still use one of the cages to calculate the other cages. You already knew how to break Dui's otherworld? Xiao Shui didn't understand. Before Muyu left, he clearly said that he couldn't break this formation. I just dislike Long Xingyun. Muyu didn't hide the truth. Xiao Shui's mouth twitched, but she didn't say anything. From a moment Long Xingyun made that decision, Xiao Shui knew that it was a mistake to not let Muyu kill Long Xingyun. Stay close to me. Don't fall behind. Muyu said seriously. In order to get close to the cages, the distance between them had to be just right. Even an inch away would cause the other cages to shift. Xiao Shui had to synchronize with Muyu. Gue Shiming and Gue Leopard chased after them. Muyu pulled Xiao Shui and pushed their speed to the limit. The two of them were like swimming dragons, flashing through the cages. Soon, Muyu found the entrance to Dui's otherworld formation. His figure flashed, and he found a suitable opportunity. Soon, he ran towards one of the red tiger skeletons. Gue Shiming and Gue Leopard were already flanking Muyu and Xiao Shui. In front of Muyu, there was only one skeleton left. At this moment, the opening of Dui's otherworld formation happened to be 3 feet in front of Muyu. Muyu took a step forward, and yellow runes appeared in his hand. He used the most basic fire sound formation and ran towards the red tiger skeletons. Fire sound formation was a formation that could change one's voice. It could mimic many sounds to confuse the enemy. Muyu didn't usually use it because in battle, everyone relied on locking onto the enemy's aura. Relying on sound was useless. Of course, this formation technique also had other uses. It was especially useful when creating illusion formations. Muyu was only using it to break Dui's Higan. Idiot, there's no way to get close to these cages. Let's see where you can run to this time. Gue Shiming sneered and grabbed at Muyu. In his opinion, Muyu was already at his wit's end. The cages in front of him would open up as Muyu got closer. That's not necessarily true. What Gue Shiming didn't expect was that this time, the cages in front of him didn't move away because of Muyu's approach. Muyu actually easily stuck to the top of the cages. His toes tapped lightly on the runes, and he landed on the top of the cages. What's going on? Don't you need a sacrifice to get close to the cages? Gue Shiming looked at Muyu's actions in confusion. Gue Shiming's expression was cold. He didn't say anything and immediately followed Muyu's path. He wanted to follow Muyu to get close to the cages. As long as he could get close to the cages, he didn't need to follow Gue Shiming's instructions. However, he miscalculated again because Muyu's body had already surged with runes and integrated into the cages under his feet. The green runes suddenly made mysterious runes appear on the surface of the cages. These runes were originally maintained at a slow speed, but with the activation of Muyu's runes, the speed of these runes suddenly became very fast. The cage's runes started to rotate. This also meant that the Dui position of the Dui Nirvana shore array technique had already moved to another place. Gue Shiming's path had disappeared. A light repulsive force came from the cages under Muyu's feet. The cages slowly pulled away from Gue Shiming. No matter how Gue Shiming sped up, the distance between him and the cages was always 3 feet. Who's the stupid one? Muyu looked at Gue Shiming, who still didn't give up. The corners of his mouth revealed a trace of ridicule. Actually, with Muyu's cultivation, he couldn't change the Dui Nirvana short array technique's runes. But because the Dui Nirvana short array technique's runes reacted to the outside world, Muyu only slightly stimulated it. Gue Shiming finally realized that what he was doing was useless. He stopped and coldly looked at Muyu. At this time, the water demon under Muyu's feet suddenly roared. It roared and wanted to pounce at Muyu, but the runes blocked the water demon's attack. Are you stupid? You think you can control these skeletons and use them to kill me? If the skeletons could break out of the cages so easily, would I need to wait for you to save me? Muyu said with disdain. But Gue Shiming laughed. I always forget that you're a formation master. Looks like I was careless. But you're too happy too early. Did you forget how I planned to get close to these stone pillars? Although I don't know formation arts, I have powerful ghost arts. Gue Shiming waved his hand, and the trapped Long Xingyun's soul floated over. Long Xingyun's face was filled with fear, but his eyes were filled with hatred as he stared at Mu Yu. Already knew how to break the formation art, but you didn't help us? Idiot. Mu Yu only replied indifferently. Help Long Xingyun? Where did Long Xingyun get the confidence to think that everyone had to follow him? Mu Yu didn't need to explain anything to someone like Long Xingyun. A blood-red gourd flew out from Gue Shiming's head. The runes on the gourd were flowing with blood. Under Gue Shiming's control, the gourd stopper was pulled out automatically. A fishy smell came from the gourd. 4 white souls floated out. These 4 souls were also controlled by the ghost arts and didn't lose their consciousness. They all angrily roared at Gue Shiming. People from the gate of hell, how dare you do such a heinous thing? Let's go. I'm from Heaven's Design Valley. My master will never let you go. Despicable. These 4 souls were furious. They were all dressed as self-cultivators and were at the spirit-severing stage when they were alive. But without exception, they were all killed by Gue Shiming. Their souls were extracted and refined, and they were trapped in the blood gourd. But they still retained their consciousness. These 4 souls were very powerful. They weren't any weaker than Long Xingyun. People from the gate of hell like to kill those with powerful souls. They used the souls as their weapons. This method was extremely vicious and was despised by the world. Impatient, Gue Shiming snorted, and the blood gourd suddenly emitted a blood-red light, which merged with the 4 souls. Immediately, the 4 souls let out mournful screams, and then the screams stopped abruptly. They could no longer make sound. I didn't refine you to listen to your nonsense. Gue Shiming's hands were already forming hand seals. Ghost chi was unceasingly interweaving around his body. Countless obscure ancient characters drilled out from the blood gourd and merged with the blood souls in the air. All the blood souls were the souls of humans or demonic beasts that had been sacrificed. They had no consciousness. Blood domain devours the sky. Gue Shiming shouted coldly. After fusing with the blood gourd's ancient runes, the blood soul became like a doe. All of its ferocious appearance disappeared as if it had been remolded. It turned into a ball of primitive bloodlight and quickly rushed towards the souls of the 4 cultivators. The 4 souls opened their eyes wide. They were no longer able to struggle. Their eyes started to become bloodthirsty and scarlet. Their bodies were also covered with dense ghost runes. They looked extremely terrifying. Gue Shiming already arrived in front of the Sea Fiend King's cage. His ultimate goal here was to capture the Sea Fiend King. Countless blood-red mist filled the air again. The souls of the 4 souls absorbed countless blood-red light. Their bodies also started to swell involuntarily. Bang! With a crisp sound, the soul of a cultivator exploded with a loud bang. It turned into countless soul fragments. These soul fragments didn't dissipate after exploding. Instead, they were controlled by Gue Shiming. They turned into a stream of light and rushed towards the Sea Fiend King. He wants to attack the Sea Fiend King. We mustn't let him have his way. Xiao Shui shouted anxiously. Mu Yu nodded. After approaching the Fiend clan's cage, he could go directly to the other cage according to the Zadie opposite shore formation spell between 2 cages. At this moment, he already flew up with Xiao Shui. He stepped on a palm-sized cage. With a step, he turned toward the Sea Fiend King's cage. After Gue Shiming turned one of the souls into fragments, the soul fragments attached themselves to the Sea Fiend King's cage. The Sea Fiend King's cage was made of formation runes. Even if Gue Shiming could control all of the skeletons, he still couldn't let the skeletons struggle free by themselves. He must use his ghost arts to help those skeletons break free from the cage. Then he must control them firmly. The formation runes of the cage, covered by the soul fragments, started to become unstable. Those soul fragments possessed powerful corrosive properties. They caused the formation runes of the cage to peel off. Bang! Bang! Another 2 souls exploded. They turned into countless fragments and surged toward the Sea Fiend King's cage. The formation runes of the Sea Fiend King's cage gradually weakened. Small gaps appeared. These gaps became bigger and bigger under the corrosion of the soul fragments. Perhaps the entire cage would be corroded soon. At that time, the Sea Fiend King would be able to break free successfully. He would then be controlled by Gui Shiming, who possessed the Blood Realm demonic puppet. Long Xingyun's expression was terrified to the extreme. The souls of 3 human cultivators exploded in succession. Their souls scattered without leaving any trace behind. Gui Shiming's vicious and merciless methods had already scared Long Xingyun out of his wits. He recalled that Gui Shiming said he would use him as a sacrifice. This also meant that he probably wouldn't be able to escape today. "I can't die. I can't die," Long Xingyun muttered. However, just as the Sea Fiend King's cage was about to collapse, Mu Yu and Xiao Shui had already stepped on the Sea Fiend King's cage. Complicated green formation runes quickly appeared in Mu Yu's hands. The chaotic yin and yang surged out of his body. They turned into a powerful formation foundation energy that forcibly maintained the formation runes of the other side of the pond on the cage. The corroded formation runes were healing at a speed visible to the naked eye. The cage became stable again. "Mu Yu, aren't you preventing the Sea Fiend King from breaking free by doing this?" Xiao Shui asked anxiously. "If the Sea Fiend King comes out now, we will all die. Gui Shiming can control his body," Mu Yu explained. "This kid is right. Even if I am just a skeleton, the 2 of you can't stop me. Little girl, you are not Shui Yumen. You are also not a member of our fiend clan. You are a human. Why do you have Shui Yuming's abilities? Also, why can you control trees?" The Sea Fiend King asked. "This matter is very complicated. There is no way to explain it. Hurry up and tell me how to break free from the Blood Realm demonic puppet's control. I can't resist this corrosive power," Mu Yu shouted. Chapter 707. I'm the king of the sea, and if I leave the sea, I will gradually dry up. "I need seawater," the Sea Demon King said quickly. Xiao Shui's water spirit immediately turned into seawater, and it flowed toward the Sea Demon King through the formation pattern's holes. However, the Sea Demon King shook his head and said, "Apart from seawater, you also need my blood." "Your blood? Are you joking with me? You have already turned into a skeleton, so where can we find your blood?" Mu Yu wanted to curse out loud. This Sea Demon King had been trapped here for more than 5,000 years and had turned into a skeleton. He clearly knew that he needed fresh blood to recover his body, yet he still didn't try to find a way to preserve some of his blood. Now, he was telling Mu Yu and the others that he needed fresh blood. How could they find it? The formation set up by Xian Jizi isolated all water, including my blood. This is why I can't preserve my blood. Have you seen my descendant? My descendant's blood is also fine, the Sea Demon King said after hesitating for a moment. When his voice just echoed, the formation patterns emitted a strange power that evaporated the water Xiao Shui turned into. It turned into nothing, and it was useless no matter how much water Xiao Shui poured into it. The other Demon Kings were still fine after being sealed, and it was only the Sea Demon King that turned into a skeleton. The reason for this was the formation patterns. Your descendant? So many years have passed, and even the demon clansmen have disappeared from the sea. What do you think is the possibility of your descendant's blood being preserved? The most important thing is that I don't even know what kind of demonic beast you are, so how can I know what your descendant looks like? Mu Yu spoke angrily. The spiritual power in his body surged unceasingly, and the chaotic yin and yang helped him to maintain the immortal Xian Jizi's formation. But the ghost arts used by the ghost cherishing his life were too powerful, and he couldn't do anything about it. Did all the demon clansmen in the sea disappear? The Sea Demon King's voice sounded disappointed and heavy. He sighed softly and said, "My main body is a black tortoise." "Black tortoise? Is it a tortoise?" Xiao Shui asked. The Sea Demon King said in displeasure, "It's not a tortoise, it's a black tortoise. It's the king of the sea, and it's different from a tortoise." "I always thought that a black tortoise was a tortoise," Xiao Shui muttered. "I don't care if you're a turtle or a tortoise. I can't get the blood of your descendants." Mu Yu said, "Mu Yu, before we came here, Uncle Ape gave an item to Elder Lu for safekeeping, and he said that it could help the Sea Demon King escape. This item should be the Sea Demon King's descendant's blood. Xiao Shui recalled this matter. Although they couldn't obtain the Sea Demon King's blood, it didn't mean that the White Ape Demon King couldn't. The point is that we don't know what happened to Boss Lu, and now he's lost. Muyu did not understand either. Boss Lu was such a steady person. He had already told Boss Lu the specific route, but Boss Lu had not found this place yet. It was really strange. Are you looking for that deer with broken antlers and that useless turtle? Unfortunately, the two of them have already been killed by me. Ghost Leopard grinned and waved his hand. A jade ruler that was flickering with flowing light appeared in his hand. What? Elder Lu is dead? Xiao Shui exclaimed. Muyu was startled as well. He recognized that jade ruler. It was the Sea Demon King's magical treasure, the Sea Calming Thousand Ruler. It was the same Sea Calming Thousand Ruler that he had used to fight Reverend Xianjizi. It had left Muyu with a deep impression. Boss Lu had said that he had found the Sea Calming Thousand Ruler. Now that the Sea Calming Thousand Ruler was in Ghost Leopard's hands, and Boss Lu had not come here yet, he must have met with some mishap. Muyu felt very uncomfortable. To be honest, Muyu did not have a deep relationship with Boss Lu and Old Turtle, but because they had been protecting Dragon Vine, they had suddenly died in the hands of people from the Gate of Hell. This made Muyu a little angry. It's the Sea Calming Thousand Ruler. I need it, said the Sea Demon King. You need too many things. We need to have the energy to get it back. Muyu was still worried about Boss Lu's death. For Muyu, it did not matter whether the Sea Demon King appeared or not, but Boss Lu should not have died in vain. No, listen to me, I really need it. As long as we get the Sea Calming Thousand Ruler back, we will have a glimmer of hope. I can teach you how to use it, said the Sea Demon King. Muyu was very angry. The Sea Demon King had too many demands. He did not even know how to deal with Gui Zhenming and Ghost Leopard. So how could he get the Sea Calming Thousand Ruler back? Hope? You don't have any hope. Gui Zhenming sneered. The blood soul on his body floated out again and pounced towards Muyu. Muyu and Xiao Shui did not dodge. The blood soul passed through their bodies and could not harm them. However, the real target of these blood soul was not Muyu and Xiao Shui, but the Sea Demon King. After the blood soul attached itself to the Sea Demon King's body, the Sea Demon King's bones let out rattling sounds. Soon after, he extended his hand and passed it through the holes created by the blood domain devouring the heavens, obstructing Muyu's repair. What are you doing? Muyu shouted angrily. The Sea Demon King said apologetically, My skeleton is being controlled. This is not what I want to do. When it rains, it pours. The Sea Demon King did not just have many demands, he also did not have a choice. He caused trouble for Muyu and made it more difficult for Muyu to maintain the Zdui's formation spell. A powerful tearing force transmitted from the Sea Demon King's arm. The Sea Demon King was, after all, a person with great cultivation, and his power was great. If it was an ordinary time, the Sea Demon King would not have been able to resist the formation spell targeted at him. But now, the formation spell was in imminent danger, and with the interference of the Sea Demon King, it was on the verge of collapse. Not good. Both of you should quickly leave this place. I feel like my power is enough to tear apart this formation spell. The Sea Demon King shouted anxiously. The Sea Demon King had been trapped for 5,000 years, and getting out of this place was always his hope. But even though he got an opportunity to get out of this place, he still couldn't feel happy about it. It was because getting out of this place meant that he would once again lose his freedom after coming out of the prison. Before Muyu and Xiao Shui could react, the Zdui's Permethal formation spell under their feet had already cracked open, and at this moment, the Sea Fiend King had already leaped out and punched towards Muyu. F***CK. You just came out, yet you already hit me? You are really an ungrateful wretch. Muyu shouted loudly. How could he dare to face the Sea Demon King's punch head-on? Even if this guy only had a skeleton left and didn't have his former cultivation, he was still not someone that Muyu could face head-on. He quickly pulled Xiao Shui and fused with the wood spirit. The Sea Fiend King's fist smashed against the wood spirit, but the wood spirit didn't fly out because the Sea Fiend King flipped his hand and grabbed the wood spirit firmly in his hand. "I'm sorry, I didn't want to injure you." The Sea Demon King's voice was refined and courteous, and even though he couldn't control himself, he still apologized politely. But his apology was useless, and it was because his palm was already exerting more force, and it was obvious that he wanted to crush Mu Ling. With his strength, an ordinary magical weapon wouldn't be able to survive, but it was fortunate that Mu Ling could even bear the world barrier's great pressure, and this was why the Sea Demon King couldn't crush it. But Mu Ling was fused with the water spirit, and when the Sea Demon King exerted more force, Mu Ling and the water spirit turned into a pool of blue water that seeped into the Sea Demon King's bones, and they quickly pulled apart the distance between them and the Sea Demon King. At this moment, Gue Shiming and Gue Bao already reached them, and as they advanced, all of the cages moved away from them, and only the Sea Demon King's skeleton didn't move away from them, because the Sea Demon King had already escaped from the other side of Zdui's cage. "What should we do now?" Xiao Shui asked anxiously. The two of them reappeared, and even though using the water spirit and Mu Ling to dodge attacks was quite easy, it was easy for them to be trapped by the opponent's spiritual power, and this was why they didn't dare to use it frequently. Fortunately, the Sea Demon King didn't seem to be able to use demonic power apart from his great strength, or else it would have been difficult for Mu Yu and Xiao Shui to escape from the moment the Sea Demon King grabbed them. "We shouldn't have gotten involved in this mess." Mu Yu cursed inwardly. Every time they got entangled with the Sea Demon King, nothing good would come out of it. They would always run into all kinds of messy troubles. Mu Yu once again seized an opportunity and entered another Zdui's cage. This was because the formation technique of the Sea Fiend King's cage, the Zedi Permitha, was destroyed. This meant that the two Zedi Permitha cages connected to the Sea Fiend King's cage were exposed. Right now, Mu Yu was on one of the cages. But fortunately, Gue Shiming could only rely on the heaven-devouring blood domain to forcefully corrode the other side of Zdui's cage, and he didn't know how to approach these cages, so he couldn't touch Mu Yu. He already used up all 4 of his souls, and wanting to capture Mu Yu wasn't an easy matter. "Do you only know how to dodge?" Gue Shiming said coldly. Mu Yu didn't feel like responding to Gue Shiming's provocation. He had to quickly think of a countermeasure now, and think of a way to help the Sea Demon King recover his physical body. Otherwise, the Sea Demon King would be a great killing machine if he fell into the hands of the people from the Gate of Hell. "Mu Yu, we have to save the Sea Demon King," Xiao Shui said resolutely. "I know, but it's already difficult for us to deal with 2 body integration stage cultivators from the Gate of Hell. And now, there's another Sea Demon King. It's already more difficult. If only Hellion Kong's soul tool could still be used, it could at least raise my cultivation to the body integration stage, and only then would I have a chance to fight with them." Mu Yu said helplessly. After Gue Shiming and the blood domain demon puppet fused together, cracks appeared on Hellion Kong's soul tool due to the blood domain demon puppet's influence, and it couldn't provide any soul power to Mu Yu anymore. "Soul tool? Do you have a soul tool in your hands? Is it a soul tool nurtured by souls?" The Sea Demon King asked. "Yes, but our soul tool will be controlled by the Japanese's blood domain demon puppet." Mu Yu spread out his hands. "Use blood. Smear the blood on," the Sea Demon King said hurriedly. Gue Shiming's gaze turned cold. "Demon King, you talk too much nonsense." Gue Shiming suddenly made a move and grabbed the Sea Demon King's throat that was full of bones with one hand. Blood-red ghost chi enveloped the Sea Demon King's skeleton, and the Sea Demon King already couldn't speak. "Blood? Blood can do this?" Chapter 708. Little Commander, can blood restrain the Blood Realm demon puppet's control? Mu Yu asked. "I don't know. I only know that blood souls will attach themselves to bones. So bones are also the nemesis of blood souls. However, I don't know if the Blood Realm demon puppet will be controlled by blood." Little Commander shook his head and said, "Wait, I remember now. You said that the Blood Realm demon puppet is the king of all bones. All bones can be controlled by it. However, the bones in our bodies are safe and sound because we have blood protecting our bodies. Muyu analyzed. Then we should have smeared our blood on the Sea Fiend King skeleton just now. That way, he wouldn't be controlled. Xiao Shui said with some regret. Although the Sea Fiend King needed the blood of his descendants to recover his body, if he temporarily used other people's blood, even if he couldn't recover his body, he could still avoid being controlled by the Blood Realm demon puppet. That won't do. Have you forgotten? Zate DUI's Permetha formation will absorb all the water. Our blood can't enter the formation cage. Moreover, after the Sea Fiend King escapes, we won't have any chance to get blood for him. Muyu took out Helion Kong's soul tool. Helion Kong's thigh bone could be said to be a great help to Muyu. It also robbed Muyu of many disasters. If it wasn't for this thigh bone, Muyu would have probably died in the hands of Gue Shitzi and Gue Yeming. He quickly pricked his finger. A few drops of blood floated out and landed on Helion Kong's soul tool. Due to the Blood Realm demon puppet, a ghastly crack had appeared on Helion Kong's soul tool. Muyu still felt somewhat guilty. When Muyu's blood dripped onto the soul tool suddenly flickered. Muyu's blood flowed along the soul tool and flowed into the crack. An exuberant aura seeped into the crack from the blood. The crack suddenly started to heal slowly. A soul tool can absorb blood? How can it heal? Muyu asked in surprise. Muyu had originally only planned to smear his blood on Helion Kong's soul tool to avoid being controlled, but when he had just dripped his blood on the soul tool had sucked his blood away, leaving no trace behind. How could he protect the soul tool like this? Muyu, your blood has an exuberant life force and can repair the damage done to the soul item. Your blood has already contaminated the soul item. Xiao Shui said in astonishment. Muyu shrugged. His blood actually had such an effect. That was pretty good. Little Japanese, my blood is the bane of demons and monsters like you. Muyu held Helion Kong's soul tool. A familiar aura surged out from the soul tool and spread throughout Muyu's body. His aura returned to the body integration stage. Gue Shiming snorted coldly. Blood mist rose from his body again, but this time he was unable to use the Blood Realm demon puppet to control Muyu's soul tool. He clearly knew this weakness of the Blood Realm demon puppet. Muyu's blood protected the Bone's soul tool from being controlled. With the soul tool, you won't be able to do anything. Gue Shiming said coldly. That might not be the case. Muyu had already jumped out from the top of the cage and landed in front of Gue Shiming. Xiao Shui followed closely beside Muyu. She also had a soul tool in her hand. That soul tool was given to her by Muyu from Helion Kong's subordinates before they came in. The soul tool's power was far inferior to Muyu's. After regaining control of his soul power, Muyu had the confidence to deal with Gue Shiming. Although Gue Shiming had become even more strange and powerful after fusing with the Blood Realm demon puppet, he wasn't undefeatable at this moment. Gue Shiming and Gue Leopard had already charged towards Muyu and Xiao Shui. The formation patterns around Muyu's body lit up. The cyan formation patterns merged into the void. The Shadow Clone sword responded and faced Gue Shiming. However, the Sea Goblin King skeleton had also joined the battle. Although the Sea Goblin King didn't have a physical body and couldn't display his powerful cultivation, his speed and power still existed. When he punched out, the air seemed to have exploded. Muyu and Xiao Shui didn't dare to face it head-on. Long Tongue and Xiao Shui also shouted and rushed out. At the same time, the two-winged fishes also circled around in the air. Water splashed everywhere and thunder and lightning struck the Sea Goblin King's body. Unfortunately, the thunder and lightning were useless against the Sea Goblin King. However, Gue Leopard and Gue Shiming were slightly afraid of the thunder and lightning and retreated. The flames of war could be triggered at any moment. Xiao Shui and Ing Fishes dealt with Gue Leopard together. Long Tongue helped Xiao Shui deal with the Sea Goblin King, who had powerful brute force. As for Muyu, he dealt with Gue Shiming, who had the highest cultivation by himself. I can only use thunder and lightning to deal with the two of them. Muyu's cultivation was already at the 9th celestial layer of the spirit-severing stage. After regaining control of the soul artifact, his aura wasn't any weaker than Gue Shiming's. After forcefully clashing with Gue Shiming's fist, they both retreated. No one had the upper hand. Deafening thunder, snake, swift shadow, cyan formation patterns appeared in Muyu's hand and gradually turned into blue thunder and lightning. The thunder and lightning continuously shot out from Muyu's hand. Countless blue sparks were swallowed and spat out. Soon after, the sparks turned into streams of light and drilled out from Muyu's hand. These blue streams of light crisscrossed in the air. Very quickly, they turned into incomparably swift thunder snakes and coiled towards Gue Shiming from different directions. Xiao Shuai's mysterious thunderfall. Xiao Shuai didn't want to be outdone. Through Muyu, his attack could also reach the power of the body fusion stage. The thunder and lightning sword directly summoned a bucket-thick thunder and lightning and struck towards the ghost leopard. The ghost leopard's aura wasn't as strong as Gue Shiming's, but he was a genuine body fusion stage cultivator after all. His speed was very fast, and he was always able to narrowly avoid Xiao Shuai's attacks. However, he wasn't only facing Xiao Shuai. There were also two water god Yao Ingyu, who could control thunder and lightning. Those two Ingyu were also powerful 6th rank Yao beasts. Although they weren't as strong as the ghost leopard, as long as there was water, they could unleash powerful thunder and lightning. Even if these thunder and lightning couldn't hurt the ghost leopard, they could still restrain the ghost leopard's technique. Therefore, the ghost leopard, whose cultivation wasn't low, was actually held back by Xiao Shuai and Ingyu. Northern Underworld 9 Fiend's Ghost descends. The blood-red ghost blade in Gue Shiming's hand once again shone with red light. A dazzling red light soared into the sky. A ghost shadow rushed out from Gue Shiming's body and stood in midair. As soon as the ghost general appeared, Gue Shiming's aura immediately transferred to the ghost general. Those thunder snakes that were originally attacking Gue Shiming changed direction once again and bombarded the ghost general. The ghost general was attacked by the blue thunder snakes, but didn't show any signs of collapse. Instead, it absorbed all of the thunder snakes. At this time, Gue Ziming had already summoned the blood-colored long axe and chopped towards Muyu. The shadow clone sword and the blood-colored long axe clashed once again, and a strong fluctuation swept out, causing the surrounding spirit chi to surge. The surrounding floating formation cage was pushed away by the powerful fluctuation of spirit chi. When Muyu and Gue Shiming fought, he felt very uncomfortable. This was because he couldn't accurately judge Gue Shiming's attack. Every movement of Gue Shiming in the air, the source of the sound and spiritual energy fluctuations came from the ghost general. This way, Muyu couldn't make an effective response. He could only rely on his eyes to judge. When cultivators fought, they reacted according to the opponent's aura. It was very difficult to rely on the eyes to keep up with the opponent's speed, especially after fusing with the Blood Realm Devil Puppet. Gue Shiming's speed was slightly faster than Muyu's. In less than a moment, the blood-red axe had already left a bloody mark on Muyu's chest. Black and white spiritual energy quickly rushed out and healed the bloody mark. Muyu stabbed out with his sword and barely repelled Gue Shiming. He also stopped in midair. The blue formation pattern once again lit up from his hand. Swift swallow returns to nest. Thousands of densely packed black swallows came out from Muyu's body. Flapping their wings, they all rushed towards Gue Shiming at lightning speed. Swift swallow returns to nest was an array technique that Muyu hadn't used for a long time. It could show the weak point of the enemy that was hit by the swift swallow. With the help of the soul tool, Muyu's speed was already barely able to catch up with Gue Shiming's speed. But because Gue Shiming didn't have any spiritual energy, it was very difficult for Muyu's attack to hit Gue Shiming. Therefore, Muyu had no choice but to use this array technique. As long as Gue Shiming's body was contaminated with the swift swallow returns to nest, even if the ghost general could hide Gue Shiming's aura, it would be useless. Because the swift swallow formation pattern on Gue Shiming's body belonged to Muyu, Muyu could determine Gue Shiming's position based on the mark that the swift swallow left on Gue Shiming's body. Insignificant skill, Gue Shiming coldly shouted. Facing the overwhelming wave of swift swallows, he didn't panic at all. In his opinion, these swift swallows created by the array technique were simply unable to withstand a single blow. Blood souls flew out from Gue Shiming's body in a frenzy. Turning around, they wrapped around those swift swallows, wanting to tear them apart. But the swift swallow returns to nest array technique didn't have any attack power. It was an illusion, adding on the fact that Muyu's understanding of this array technique had already reached the acme of perfection. Muyu wouldn't give Gue Shiming a chance to destroy it. Blood souls were also illusory things that were refined from souls. Two types of illusory techniques intertwined in the air. Those blood souls directly passed through the swift swallows, unable to stop the swift swallow's pace. Gue Shiming sensed that he was unable to destroy these swift swallows. Although he couldn't feel the destructive power of the swift swallows, no one would think that they would be contaminated by an unknown object for no reason. Thus, he constantly changed his position to avoid the swift swallow's attack. At the same time, he continuously attacked Muyu. When Gue Shiming moved, his aura was on the ghost general's body. Thus, these swift swallows were unable to automatically follow his aura and could only be controlled by Muyu. Furthermore, Muyu had to deal with Gue Shiming's attack at any time. Thus, it was very difficult to control the swift swallows in the air to chase after Gue Shiming's footsteps. But Muyu wasn't anxious, because when his hand trembled, all the swift swallows seemed to be plated with a layer of water ripples, becoming somewhat faintly discernible. Those swift swallows' flight path also seemed to be faintly changing. Very quickly, 10 swift swallows joined together and flanked Gue Shiming from the left. Gue Shiming disdainfully sneered. The swift swallows were unable to lock onto his aura. They were simply unable to chase after him. Just as he was about to fly to the right, he suddenly sensed that something was wrong. Because at this moment, those swift swallows that were flanking from the left suddenly appeared in front of him on the right. In a hurry, his body abruptly stopped moving forward and leaped upwards. However, he once again miscalculated, because the swift swallows had already merged into his body from above. Muyu, who controlled the power of nature, could already superimpose the mirror image array on the swift swallows returning to their nest, forming an array within an array. The mirror image array could make the position of the attack difficult to grasp, and the swift swallow's speed was very fast. The combination of these two array techniques made the swift swallow's attack difficult to block. Gue Shiming's body immediately surged with ghost chi. He wanted to destroy the swift swallows. But once the swift swallows entered Gue Shiming's body, it was like a stone sinking into the sea. It lost its aura. It was as if nothing had happened, and all the swift swallows returning to their nest in the air had gradually faded. There was a time limit to their appearance. But to Muyu, one swift swallows was enough to hit Gue Shiming. Pretending to be mysterious. Is your array technique used to be funny? Gue Shiming didn't sense anything strange. He also didn't feel any danger. Therefore, he was slightly relieved. He felt that Muyu was just bluffing. It was impossible for a normal technique to not feel anything after touching the body. But Muyu smiled slightly. How can my array technique be judged by people like you? To Muyu, this swift swallows on Gue Shiming's body was not used to detect Gue Shiming's weak point. It was used to determine Gue Shiming's position. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.